Everyone wants to stay younger and skinnier for longer, and there is one word that keeps popping up in this industry.
Peptides.
Peptide.
Peptide? What is a peptide?
BPC157.
GLP1.
BPC157, GLP1, STD69. What does that even mean? I had to have these questions answered, so I sat down with Nuviva Medical Weight Loss and T clinics because I wanted to find out, one, have they found a miracle weight loss pill? And two, I've got one thing I really want to achieve in life.
Yeah, I just want that Jared Leto effect.
And I found my answer. So enjoy the show. Thank you for driving all the way from Miami.
Yeah.
It's a long drive.
Not a fun one.
First of all, thank you for coming. I mean, I said thanks for, you didn't drive as far.
No, I'm close. 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
So for the people listening, just let them know what you do. And then, I mean, we'll see where it goes.
So Alex and I are partners on 2 medical practices. We do medical weight loss and hormone optimization for men. We've been in the business. Actually, Alex was in before me. 2005. I think you were
6. Yeah.
I've been in healthcare for about 20 years, and then migrated more into health and wellness.
Yeah. So I started my practice originally here in Fort Myers. Started focusing more on like hormone replacement, anti-aging medicine. I'm not a doctor. I partnered with a doctor, and then Jeff was a friend of mine from the gym, knew nutrition. Kind of was the dieting weight loss guru of the gym. So basically asked him if he could help me with my clients who were looking for weight loss services. We realized we actually had something with that. Mm-hmm. Opened up a weight loss clinic. And then since then we've opened up 15 more since then.
Yeah.
So
yeah, wow.
It's been a good journey. Yeah.
So 15, where are they located?
All in Florida.
Mm-hmm.
Fort Myers, Naples, Port Charlotte, Tampa, Sarasota. Well, Sarasota's opened and closed since now. So,
COVID?
No, well before. It was managed by somebody who ultimately chose another path halfway through. So,
okay.
Some of them were franchises. Some of them were ours. So our owned offices are still open.
Mm-hmm.
A few on the East Coast. We have a Coral Springs office, a Boca Raton office.
A couple in Orlando. Melbourne, Florida.
See, whenever you guys say Melbourne, I think of home.
Yeah.
It just throws me off.
Like,
not that far.
I was going to say, sweet, you guys are branching out.
Yeah.
We have one coming up in the Cape soon.
Yeah, Cape Coral's coming.
A men's clinic coming up in Fort Myers soon.
Yeah, wow. So you got a few pumping out.
Yeah.
And so
it's good business right now.
With Nuviva, like what is that one in particular? Like what do you guys focus on in that section of your business?
So, I mean, Nuviva by definition is the weight loss clinic. So Nuviva Medical Weight Loss, therefore we're specialized in that. We always kind of, my thoughts in business was always open a practice that was specific to a certain initiative rather than being the company that offered everything and people wondering if you were good at anything. Open something specific and stay in your lane. So we stayed in the lane of weight loss and did really, really well with it. So by definition, medical weight loss, we combine nutrition concepts and the idea of eating right, but then we accompany it with the medical idea so we can give medications through the physicians we work with.
Oh, okay.
So there's medications like appetite suppressants and injectable vitamins. We use injectable-based products like HCG, which is a hormone. There's a new drug called semiglutide, which has been like all the rage. So that's been a big thing.
So with the appetite suppressants, what does that typically do to the person in terms of what makes us have that appetite suppressed with those medications?
Well, as far as with like something like phentermine, a lot of those medications, depending on if you get into like crave or bupropion or phentermine in general, which is probably the most commonly used one. Back then, it used to be actually phentermine with like dexamfetamine, but they are amphetamine derivatives, so that a lot of times they tend to control or cut appetite, so it makes it easy for someone to adhere to a diet. We really don't like using those medications for what most people use them for. So we actually do a lot lower dose medications. We have a lot of clients that don't even use appetite suppressants. And kind of take a step back, when we built the program, there's so many medical weight loss clinics, and a couple of the bigger ones were more geared towards here's one diet. Most of them are starvation diets. Let me load you up on things that you're not going to eat and people would lose weight, but they'd end up wrecking their metabolism. And then when they were done and they stopped taking appetite suppressants, they started eating again. They gained a lot of that weight back. So, when we started kind of developing Nuviva, it was how can we change the lifestyle habits? How can we teach them the fundamentals of nutrition that most of us were never taught in school, and slowly do that. You can't do it all overnight. So we kind of have phases to the program that teach the people not to skip meals, how to calorie count, how to macro micro time, or what that means, just what types of food at what time, and teach them the true fundamentals of what's going to keep the weight off for the client. So our goal was to, how can we teach them the fundamentals, give them some things to help them adhere to the plan, which a lot of people lack discipline initially coming in. So those are definitely great additives to help them get the job done, or at least, get them making the lifestyle change habits. And once people realize it's more the food and how to eat, a lot of them manage it long term.
Yeah.
But going back to the original question about like what is an appetite suppressant, having willpower is ultimately like the key in losing weight, right? Like knowing what to eat, when to eat it, having that initiative to want to go exercise, having that initiative to drink water instead of sodas, and all the things we know to do.
Yeah.
The idea of taking something that just kind of turns off the want for food and giving you that kind of subconscious and physiological ability to like stay away from the bad stuff is really what and why they work, right? So if I gave you a pill and said, don't eat donuts and instead eat, egg whites and whatever for breakfast, you're going to have an easier time doing that because you're not having that craving. And they also are stimulants generally. So it gives people a lot more energy. So the phentermine, specifically the drug we prescribe at the office, it's in the same classification as Adderall or any of these other type of drugs that have these like stimulant effects. So people are awake and alert and they want to go exercise or do more, and inherently they don't want to eat. So, but that causes its own problem because suppressing your appetite too much, can sacrifice your metabolism. If you don't eat, if you skip your breakfast and you skip your lunch, essentially you're kind of killing your metabolism, and that's something we don't really want to kind of encourage. We want people to still have that desire to eat breakfast, to still have that lunch, have that dinner, keep the metabolism moving. Yeah.
So what if someone, because you mentioned just then skipping breakfast. I skip breakfast. It's actually been a conscious choice. Since I moved to America, I never used to. I felt better from it. And I don't know. I don't feel like a lack of energy, but I don't know if it's a case of, you're a year and a half in, Blake. It's still early.
Well, you're a young male who's fit. I'm sure you exercise too.
So if I was training every day, that would still boost my metabolism. Fine.
Yeah. So people who skip their breakfast, who are more sedentary people, and their metabolism slow down accordingly because they're not putting that food into the body, that the body has to understand that there's food coming in. So if you get into this consistency over long periods of time of always skipping that meal, the body will essentially slow itself down knowing that meal's not coming.
Yeah.
But then you take a person who eats breakfast every single day of their lives and all of a sudden take breakfast away, they're going to lose weight, right? Because of course you're not supplying that energy source that their body was used to. So the intermittent fasting was kind of this concept that everybody's like, oh, I can lose weight doing it. It wasn't for everyone. It's for people who are active, who have the metabolism to support it, or who come from a pre-existing history of having eaten at that same interval.
Yeah, because I've noticed, by not having carbs in the morning, because I used to love oatmeal. That was my go-to. But by cutting it, I was like, man, I'm way more alert. And then trying to avoid having carbs, I basically moved into America. I flipped how I ate.
A more keto style or something.
It was more that I would carb load in the morning, and then I'd taper off the carbs and eat more vegetables and meat before I go to bed.
It kills me. People eat the shittiest breakfast. They eat donuts and waffles and pancakes.
Oh, I wasn't that bad.
Well, but you eat that way. If you look at what's on an average breakfast menu, it's all high starchy carbohydrates, fruits, sugars, garbage.
Pop-Tarts.
Yeah, you eat this stuff when you go on vacation, and I'd want to go right back to bed. It's the worst thing. And so most of the time, a more energetic and clear-headed person is going to eat protein in the morning. And you have those carbs, you're going to feel like bogged down or at least have a crash.
Yeah, but going back to even what you were saying with intermittent fasting, there's so many benefits. If you look at it and there's not one diet's better than another, right? But what we found too with a lot of the weight loss clients is what's going to get them back to prevent what they're doing wrong. Most people who skip meals tend to do what? Overeat later. And then you're skipping a small portion. Intermittent fasting in the morning, you got less insulin response, increased growth hormone levels, your mental clarity is a lot better, autophagy happens. So there are some benefits.
What's autophagy, or what do you say?
Just the,
what did you say? Autophagy?
Autophagy, yeah. So just like cellular replication, like the cell health's a lot better as well. But what happens is, so through the morning, it's not a bad thing, but the problem is people who, I'd say the world takes good dieting protocols and they make it fit what they want to do. So like intermittent fasting turned into this, I'm not going to eat all day and I'm going to eat whatever the hell I want for one meal. And then all of a sudden they're just like blowing it out. And so you take someone who's sedentary, who doesn't already have a good metabolic rate, and have them fast all day, and then they throw down at night. It's kind of insult to injury, right?
Yeah, like how many times have you had a client that would come and tell you, well, I've been intermittent fasting. And you're like, this person has no idea actually how to diet.
Yeah.
They just found a word that fit into what they like to do. And they didn't like to eat breakfast. So all of a sudden now they were following a diet.
Yeah.
But you are a lot more clear-headed. Like I said, intermittent fasting, we actually do have an intermittent fasting protocol in our plan because sometimes it just fits people's schedule a little bit better. We try not to do longer than like a 16-hour fast. We still try to get the client like an 8-hour eating window, controlled, healthy eating window versus just the whatever, so we still have a chance to kind of get some food in, make sure they have enough calories so they're not too low and they're not slowing down their metabolic rate. So once again, there's many ways you could diet. It's how it's applied. For what we do in the weight loss programs, we try to cater it to the average weight loss person that doesn't have a good metabolic rate, doesn't have good habits, and how can we adjust it to get them back to what we feel is the best way to eat so they can manage their weight. If we try to prescribe to small, frequent eating, keep blood sugar stable, try to reduce carbohydrates and sugar later in the day, but just don't set them up to overeat, which is a problem for a lot of people that don't have that discipline or never had that discipline.
And that's kind of a negative, going back to the appetite suppressant thing, when they wear off. You take it in the morning and it keeps you up all day, so you can't take it at night because it'll keep you up all night.
Yeah.
When it wears off, all of a sudden everybody's starving, and that's a problem with those drugs too, So
have you also thought, so my theory behind why we crave carbs at night is because we're trying to keep ourselves awake. So this is pure Blake science right now. But it's like, if you look at when you typically crave the shit food, it's because it's sugar and carb based. It's typically at night, and it's usually after the sun's gone down. So your circadian rhythms are telling your body, all right, it's time to go to sleep. But then now you're watching television or you want to get some work done. And as a result, your body's telling you, all right, if you want to stay awake, I need these foods. And therefore we start...
I
always
think
thought it was the opposite.
Well,
I always thought about the bear who eats a bunch of like honey and garbage before he hibernates. It's a good way to
honestly
your system for the long.
That's just Blake science.
No, I was going to say that. Listen, I like the Blake science. I think what happens for most people is you're home, you're sedentary, you think about food a lot more, and you tend to like the more you think about the food that's in the pantry, and obviously when you have time to think about it, you're going to probably pick the not so good choices or want the not so good choices. I think too, just the way society's brought up, when we were younger, like you have your dessert at night, after dinner you have dessert.
Yeah,
so people
funny,
get ingrained to like
thing.
having those types of comfort foods at nighttime before you go to sleep.
I don't remember the last time I had dessert. Like I cut it out because I was like, why do I have to?
Yeah, unfortunately, I still have my dessert. But you got to earn it. You have to work hard and diet all day, and then like you can afford to have those extra calories. There's a lot of people that think, I shouldn't eat 1 hour before going to sleep, and that's like a big no-no in dieting, which is not always a no-no in dieting. If you eat correctly all day long and you're calorie deficient and maybe you have a little bit more calories in the evening before you go to sleep, as long as you're not going into excess, you technically shouldn't be putting on weight. You may not be losing weight, but you really shouldn't be putting on weight if you don't go over your caloric budget.
If I got paid $1 every time I heard I shouldn't eat after 6 p.m., I'd be rich. I'll tell you, and a lot of people like hear this. And then once again, this goes to, I guess, a lot of like information overload or misinformation that's out there. Like he just said, if you're within your calories that your body could use per meal and you're within your calories for the day, if you're in a deficit and you're trying to manage weight, you every 2 to 3 hours while awake, you should have something. If you're awake, there's a metabolic demand. Why wouldn't you support it?
Yeah, we used to use that analogy of like the metabolism's like a bonfire. Mm-hmm. You're not gonna throw one large log on it when it's trying to burn, because it's gonna put it out, right?
Yeah.
You want to put like little sticks on it, keep it burning all day long. it's easy to think about that as an analogy. It's like throw little sticks, keep it burning, nice and hot. That's
So
metabolism.
so like what was it? Someone said that in personal training back in the day. It was like paper lights it quick. That's the sugar. The sticks and little bits are like the fats, and then the big logs are the bricks. So the protein is the bricks.
Right.
So the bricks eventually do burn.
Yeah.
But you got to get the metabolism burning hot enough to want to burn them.
When that gets into like breaking down science with like thermic effect of food and like what it does internally.
Conversation we want to have here.
Yeah, I don't want to open that one up.
But there's new drugs on the market that yes, we do use because they're effective, but at the same time they also have that same detriment to kind of change the behavior pattern against what we're talking about right now too. All the rage right now is this drug called semiglutide. Everybody wants it. Ozempic, Wegovy. You hear about it if you're in this industry.
What is it for anyone who's not familiar with it?
So it's called a GLP1 peptide, and it's essentially a drug that makes it so that you feel. It was originally FDA approved for diabetes, and it got recently FDA approved for weight loss. And it's a once a week injection, and basically it makes you not want to eat. Like you don't think about food. You get full very quickly because your body slows down the speed in which your stomach digests food through your gastric emptying, and then it regulates your blood sugar. So all the things that typically create the want for food, the overeating ability, and the cravings for carbohydrates go away because of this one drug. Fantastic. People over studies, lose 20% of their body weight doing nothing more than just taking the medication. But we run into the same conversation where clients are using and they're like, I'm not losing any weight. Well, because you stopped eating. Just because you stop eating completely doesn't make your body want to lose weight. Your metabolism plays a very key role in that. So if your metabolism sucks and you stop eating, it's almost like you're kind of putting less fuel in the car, but you're essentially turning down the horsepower. The idea would be to rev the horsepower up and then put less fuel in the car. And the idea behind that is to eat small quantities of good quality food frequent throughout the day. So allow the drug to, prohibit your want to overeat and stop you from eating the wrong foods, but still activate the metabolism through frequent small meal choices. Yeah. And that way, you're burning more calories, but you're consuming a whole lot less. And so that medication under the right guidance can be extremely effective. But there's a lot of people are getting it from clinics and places that don't know what they're doing, and the results are not that great. And they're like, I tried this medication and it didn't really work, or it worked for the first couple of weeks and now I don't see any results. Where with us, because we have the coaching ability and the knowledge base, we can guide them on how to make it still work.
And so in what circumstances would you give the person, is there a clear line where you give someone medication, you're like, hey, actually, you shouldn't be doing it. It's just a habit change?
Yeah, so sometimes, obviously, we use BMI for certain clients. Once they're below a certain point, some medications we can't use. But if they need some assistance or discipline, most clients are fine as long as they're screened ahead of time. Obviously for appetite suppressants, you want to make sure that they're cardiovascularly screened. With some semaglutide, there's some issues that you got to be careful of, like thyroid medullary cancer, pancreatitis. So a lot of times we'll do a lot of screening on the front end to approve them. So if they do need that medication, we can use it. But I'll tell you a pretty cool story. Like when Ozempic came out, everything he was just talking about was actually a side effect, right? So it was a GLP1 peptide that was meant to help the pancreas function better, to release insulin properly, to help people with diabetes, right? Fix the A1C. Usually their carbohydrate metabolism would be better. When they eat carbohydrates, the pancreas releases insulin properly. They started noticing like, wow, these people are losing weight. Well, because it slowed gastric emptying and how fast food moves through. So they constantly had this feeling of satiety. And then when they would eat, they were satiated earlier on in the meal, which is kind of like a good side effect. But in lies the problem with the masses using this medication, especially following like a diabetic protocol. If you take too much or too quick, it could cause some serious diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. So they should be monitored on it. But my biggest gripe, I guess, about that medication and how if it's not used right, people are taking it, they're seeking it out, they're taking high dose and they're not eating, no different than like a gastric bypass or sleeve. Those people get a bypass or sleeve, they tell them not to eat, they undereat, they lose a ton of weight initially. A lot of it, they end up burning a lot of muscle tissue, sacrifice the metabolic rate. What happens once they start eating again? They gain all their weight back and then some because they damage their metabolic rate. And I see this happening, or a potential for the people that are using semaglutide wrong is they're taking it. They're not going to eat. They're going to lose weight, but they're also going to wreck the metabolic rate. So our goal is how can we use it, get the good, help them adhere to a dietary plan, the right dietary plan. So we're losing body fat, not muscle. So when they're done, we could shift them back into regular life and show them the proper way to manage the weight.
Yeah. And so muscle is related to your metabolic.
That's what I was going to say. So a lot of people don't take into account what they lose when dieting. All they're worried about is that the scale says something less. You know, but I mean,
which is ridiculous.
But again, it's like, you know, you have to think about the life after the diet. And at some point, you're going to want to eat normally again. And if you don't have the muscle mass to support your metabolism, that one piece of pizza that's, 700 calories that prior to the diet, you could have burned it up in your natural metabolism. If you've learned that, if you burn that muscle mass off during the diet, you eat that pizza, a good portion's now going to get stored as fat. So you're actually going to get fatter faster because you did this like crash diet beforehand. Yeah. So it comes with its own degree of risk, right? So like dieting to its own way has a potential to sacrifice your ability to lose weight when this is over. And so again, I always like lean on, make sure you go to someone who actually knows what they're doing. Just because your local Botox place offers semaglutide now doesn't necessarily mean that's the right choice for you. Yeah. Because the drug is the drug, but the guidance is the ultimately most important part about getting you to not only the finish line, but keeping you there. You know, because I would say 80% of dieters are yo-yo dieters. They lose weight, gain it, lose it, gain it. Yeah. And most of the time, they lose 30, put back on 32. They lose 35, they put back on 40.
The gap gets larger.
So as the years go on, they progressively get bigger. Yeah.
Well, because they're like, once again, they're handicapping the metabolism. And then if someone does, the hardest part of dieting, I always try to tell people when they first come in, it's not even losing the weight. It's that 6 months afterwards, making sure you're slowly picking up, because dieting inherently is, no matter if you're dieting, with a lot more calories, you got to put yourself in a calorie deficit. Your body eventually will adapt to that. That's why you typically got to start tearing food away or increasing your activity level to be able to keep that weight loss going. So when you're done, you already got a somewhat damaged metabolism. So you got to take your time to slowly reverse diet, they call it. But you could, pick the calories back up and get them back to more maintenance calories to where they could eat a decent amount of food and still manage the weight. Yeah, most people don't do that. That aftercare is usually people are like, "Woohoo, I'm going back to my old lifestyle." So you got to definitely kind of spend the next 6 months
like
afterwards.
Us being in the business, we have to try these things, and I personally use semaglutide even currently now. I actually got injured pretty significantly about 2 months ago. I tore a portion of my lat muscle. So hold on. I tore a portion of my lat muscle, and I was not able to go to the gym as much, and I wasn't able to train as much. So I was like, I should really suppress my appetite because I tend to be an overeater. It's very much an addictive thing to have this medication that really turns down your desire for all the bad things that you naturally do. Imagine having a major vice in your life, energy drinks, coffee, whatever it is, and taking something that instantly takes that away. Imagine how like good that feels, to all of a sudden not have this thing on your shoulder that's been a really problem for your life. That's essentially for a lot of people what semaglutide is. I always tell people it's like having the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other. Semaglutide kind of takes that devil and says, get the hell out of here, and all of a sudden you have this like willpower that's amazing. It's scary to think that you got to stop this at some point. And all of a sudden potentially go back down that road of gaining the weight back and having that addiction come back, so.
That's where we got to force that lifestyle change and show them the proper way.
Yeah. Because one thing we've noticed with with the people that are doing my 30-day challenge, I just posted on Insta. I was like, who wants to do one with me? Like, I wanted to do it. It was more for me than anything else. But one thing I noticed, because I used to be a personal trainer back home, I'd say to them, like, the rules were exercise every single day. You have to lose a minimum of 300 calories, which is probably like 45 minutes of weight training. It's nothing crazy, but the consistency of every single day for 30 days, no drinking, which is easy for me. I don't anyway, but then pick one or two vices personally that you want to say like no for 30 days. What I found was a lot of people were very vague. They're like, I'm giving up sugar. I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? Like, you're giving yourself automatic permission to fail. because like that means, all right, you can't have even fruit. Like it's
I mean,
just
you can
such a
survive
broad
on
thing.
that. You can go to straight keto, but
Yeah, but I said like once I got people going specific, I was like, all right. So in my instance, it's no chocolate. So I mean, I had a freaking cookie the other day, but I make sure there's no chocolate in it. But it still cuts out a lot of options that I can have by being specific. Same as energy drinks. I can have a coffee if I want, but that drip down effect happens where I'm like, I don't need it, because I'm specific with the energy drinks. With one of my friends, same thing. She was like, no sugar. I'm like, all right, too vague. I'm like, how about no chocolate and no candy? Just that, like, fruit, whatever. Don't overthink it. You can freaking put a little bit of syrup in your coffee or whatever.
For failure, yeah.
Yeah. The second I got specific, you heard the backtracking. Oh, I need to think about it. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if I can do that. Like, because it was all of a sudden, it's like, because of that specificity, it was a clear line in the sand, which I know when I'm stepping over that line, that it got real. But
isn't it easier to follow knowing your defined lines?
That's the thing. So
for some people,
it's
a
lot easier to. But I think sometimes people love to start things because they love the idea of it, but they're okay with the
gray line areas.
They're okay with the gray because they're like, I can fail, so I can say I'm doing it, and then when I do fail, it's I tried.
That's
like
going back to the Nuviva question. Our program is like it's actually 5 different separate diet plans. Each one has its very specific rules. But if you're out of those rules, you're really not in a diet, right? So it's our jobs, our coaches' jobs to kind of identify which diet you're actually in and can stay in for the period of life you're in. Like we have people who are about to go on a cruise. You're not going to put somebody who's on a cruise in a keto diet. They're just not going to stick to it, right? So you have to then say, okay, well, if you're going to go on the cruise, maybe we cut out red meat, maybe we cut out cheese, but you can still have some alcohol and you can still have some fish and you can have some these things. So
you guys cut out red meat?
Well, I'm saying in that particular diet for that moment. And then somebody can go on that cruise and they can leave thinking, all right, I followed that diet. I didn't eat any red meat. I didn't have a dessert, but I had alcohol, but I had, the breakfast that I wanted. And so at least they kind of stick to a plan. And when they come off, they're not feeling like defeated. They still felt like they followed through and they still have this sense of, satisfaction that they actually fulfilled what they said they could do.
Yeah. Okay. And so, with do you guys also give them, I guess, ideas for training, or is it more just like you specialize in the?
We give recommendations. Like we'll give some basic recommendations. A lot of the clinics are usually aligned with certain people in the market. So, like, say if a girl came in and she's like, I don't want to weight train and I don't want to be in a group class and I want to do yoga or Pilates. Like we have certain people that we refer, I don't care what they do as long as they're active. So I try to find out what are they wanting and willing to do and whatever they're able to be consistent with. We'll try to push them that way into that type of activity. So we try to our goal is 30 to 45 minutes of activity per day.
I mean, we recommend them to understand when to do it and how to eat around it because that's really important as well. How many times have you been to a gym and you see these ladies, they leave like a cardio class and they go straight to the protein bar shake and they get the shake with the chocolate and the peanut butter and the banana.
Yeah, everything
else.
Like,
I crushed it and then we're going to do some weight. And it's like, you just drank 2,000 calories of a shake.
Yeah, it's basically a Mars bar with protein.
Exactly, right? So we try to help at least if you're going to do these particular exercise programs to understand like what your nutritionist should look around it. So your goal is actually achievable.
But we're I would like to say even though I believe exercise is super important, we try to focus on the 90% of weight management, which is the food. And I always say this, like you go to the gym and bust your ass and burn 500 calories. I could eat 500 calories in 5 minutes, right? Calories come in way faster than you can expel them. So, and I try to break that mindset of because I go to the gym, I could eat what I want, but then people realize it doesn't work.
If the average person goes to gym, 5 hours a week if they're lucky?
If they're lucky.
Yeah.
So and most of it's scrolling.
Right. So most people don't work out that hard.
Yeah. Well, that's why I always get the question, you guys probably get the same, what's the best workout for weight loss? And I go,
walking.
Not this. Yeah. That's the best workout.
Work smarter, not harder. You still want to put some work in, but, just have some discipline on the food. But that's unfortunately the hardest thing for anybody in the world to do, especially now with this day and age.
Weight loss is not about one particular thing. It's about making small changes throughout your entire lifestyle. It's taking that little bit of a walk before you eat or after you eat. It's cutting out a little bit of that food choice that is really not good for you in your particular diet. Sleeping a little better, drinking water instead of, fruit juices. I mean, it's all those little things add up. And the idea is that over an entire month's time, if you can drop a pound or 2 pounds, at the end of the year, that's either 12 or 24 pounds difference. I mean, people don't really accept that like grand scheme of time. I want to lose 5 pounds a month. I'm like, well, over a year,
you think you're going to shows like Biggest Loser.
It just installs this idea that you can do that.
Because they see people like that, and it's like, oh, that guy lost 10 pounds.
Yeah,
in
and
a
the
week.
guy's
And I'm
burning like freaking so many calories all day long.
It's
not even that. You got people like them where they go from 8,000 calorie a day diet to a forced 1,600.
And nobody would want to watch a TV show.
No, like stupid amount. That just reinforces what I just said. Like those guys are crushing calories expenditure wise, and then they going back in the real world. They stop doing the activity.
Well, that's
and
why that bounce back with all of them.
Yeah,
most of all those people, they leave Biggest Loser, gain all that weight back.
It is funny how they blame the producers though, where they're just like, all they cared about was making money. It's like, yeah.
That's why everyone watched the show.
That's why we watched it.
There's no ongoing treatments after. It's like,
But we do the same, honestly. Like people come to us expecting these monumental weight losses, and we can help them achieve that. But the moment they don't have us to keep them accountable, then the question comes in: what are you doing to sustain it? We're here for the easy part, which is the weight loss. We're not here for the hard part. The hard part is keeping it off. You go into real world, you have your real life scenarios and temptations that you have to figure out how to dance around them. Yeah. The medications we provide can only do so much. And so
because everyone happens to they think their weight sneaks up on them. It's like, no, you weren't noticing. Like you don't, when people say, oh, I ate so bad on the weekend and I put on weight, I'm like, it's not how it works. It's not going to happen.
You can have your crash. You can have your bad weekend, but
you're not going to put weight on for 2 days of bad eating. You guys eat gluttonously for 2 days. I'm sure you just shit it all out. The next time.
I mean, you're going to put some water and
say, right.
It's temporary weight. But if you keep it at that pace, it definitely, the caloric surplus is
that's the thing.
Yeah. I mean, how people go on a vacation, and you go to Italy and you eat like shit for the whole week, and people are like, come back, I didn't gain any weight. Well, yeah, because you were exercising too.
Walked everywhere.
Or maybe you put 2-3 pounds on and then you're back to your normal lifestyle. You're right. It's this consistent bad choices. It adds up. It's like at the end of a month, you're 2 pounds up. And at the end of the year, you're 20 pounds up. 5 years later, you're 80 pounds up.
Or this time of year with the holidays, people go through the holidays, put on 10, 15 pounds, and they keep about 2 every year.
Yeah, I believe
just do that alone.
Yeah.
Adds up.
Compound interest.
Yeah.
Well, that's why we set that thing of no chocolate through December.
Oof.
So I did anyway. Because I was just like, why?
Make it the hard time of year for you.
Yeah, but it's I don't know. If you guys are the same, once you set yourselves a challenge, I'm just like, I have to do it. I drove into Starbucks 2 days ago because I was like, all right, no caffeine. I'll just get a warm drink. So I'm like at the drive-through. Can I get a hot chocolate? She's like, yeah, no worries. I'm like, thanks. Yeah. And then as she goes, it's that price. I'll see it at the end. Oh, wait. Shit, it's got chocolate in it. Had this weird back where I'm like, do you guys have any warm drinks that are not chocolate? She's like, and there was this awkward dance because she didn't know I was trying to avoid chocolate.
No caffeine, no chocolate. You didn't get out of Starbucks line.
I had a cinnamon latte decaf. It was the queerest drink. But it was really good.
Wow, that turned really quick.
Probably a ton of sugar in that though.
Yeah, there was, but remember that's not part of my vices.
Right.
I have to be specific, and I went to the gym after. Don't judge me.
You can afford it.
Well, listen, you have that mindset too, but not a lot of people have that discipline to be able to just shut it off and move forward. So we got it. Is
it more that it's whatever you're emotionally connected to stronger? Like if you're connected with, I want to connect with this group of people, the way they enjoy stuff is eating crap food. That connecting with them is more important emotionally than being healthy, and that's typically what also happens. The environment.
I think that plays into it. I think a lot of people, until they're ready to make the change, they definitely find an excuse to use those situations my friends or my social group.
So many people tell you how their life changes socially once they start these programs. I didn't realize the only friends I had was bar friends or people we got together every Thursday night and we went to the bowl and wings or whatever, and all of a sudden you take that out of their lives and they're like,
yeah, what do we connect on now?
No, I just walk by myself. They don't have that same social group.
That is a difficult thing though. you know, because like we connect on whatever we connect with our friends, you know. I've had friends back in Australia where they started dating a girl because they both like drugs. I was like, that's not a good foundation.
Fortunately, that's how most people meet, alcohol and drugs, right?
Yeah. So, and so how do people deal with those shifts of
Especially family.
social-
Imagine these families where you have a wife who's trying to diet and the husband doesn't support it, and kids that don't support it. Imagine
Or verbally
even
supports it, but
couples
not
and they have
actually in
little
the
kids,
actions.
you know, and then in the house you have all this garbage food. It's probably not easy. I mean, luckily for me, my wife's very into, you know, fitness and nutrition, and I know Jeff's is as well. And he has a young boy who's, you know, I'm sure they're trying to point in the right direction. But it has got to be very difficult to be married to somebody who does not believe or want to support you through this process. And we do hear it.
No,
there
all
are
the
literally
time.
couples that the husband does not support the wife in their weight loss initiative, and you know she's out there eating chicken and you know salad or whatever, and she tells us, "Oh, my husband brings a pizza home, just to be an asshole."
Yeah. Well, that's the thing I've always said is its environment is more powerful than your will.
For sure.
Always.
Yeah.
You know, like I find it hard when people are like, I need to practice self-control. It's like you do, but there's a limit. Like you will always become what the environment's telling you. And the one I always, you know, when people are like, oh, I bought some stuff, just, you know, some chocolates or whatever, and they're in the pantry just in case, you know, and I need to practice my self-will. I always flip it. I'm like, all right, well, what happens if your husband just like he goes to events where there's floozy women and stuff, but he's like, he's loyal,
Okay.
but he just wants to, you know, he just wants to test his you know, his loyalty,
loyalty.
and you know, he wants to practice that muscle. You'd be like, no, you fucking remove yourself from that situation. But with food, we don't do that.
Yeah.
If for some reason it's like I always
Well,
do
food's
that.
got to be the
remove
hardest
it.
addiction to break because you can't live without it.
You can't, but you can live without the shit stuff
You can live
in
without the
your
shit stuff.
house, and that's the easiest way
And that's
to
what
keep
I
the
did.
habit.
It was easy when I lived in Fort Myers because I'd never had shitty food in the house. You know, we would shop. I would have whatever I had. Having a rice cake with some peanut butter was the extent of the bad I could put together.
That
in
was
my house.
bad?
Yeah, that was
sounds
as bad.
bland.
And now I live in Miami, where literally I go downstairs and there's like every bad food and restaurants right at your beck and call. So that willpower comes into play. And again, I always think about these people with kids. You know, there's kids cereal and all the stuff that kids love to eat. All the stuff we love to eat that we know we shouldn't eat.
Yeah.
If all that was in my pantry, I would have some late night bad choices.
Do you just lean into, like, say, this could be a trick, is to not go downstairs. You lean into being lazy somehow. You're like, fuck it, I'm too lazy to go downstairs.
Just to stay away from the food.
Yeah, like somehow trick your brain to, you know, lean into a weakness that benefits you.
I think the old idea that is the food tastes better than the way you look or the way you feel, right? And there's got to be a point of what tastes better, looking better or pizza, you know? I mean,
That's true. I don't know. Looking better tastes better, I think.
I think so. I mean, I used to tell people, like, you know, what feels better, like the enjoyment of a donut or the enjoyment of taking off your clothes and liking the way you look, or going out to a restaurant or having your wife look at you, you know, a little bit differently. Those feelings should make you feel better than the small satisfaction of, you know, eating a shitty piece of food.
Yeah.
At least they should.
It should. So how do you get
But that's
people
where it goes back to
emotionally-
these medications, because like that kind of artificially, you know, supports them from making that bad choice.
Initially, you know, I think it's to get them kind of in the groove and going, because most of these people have never done this their whole life, right?
Yeah.
So they are great tools to use for the people that need them to get some discipline and some structure. And then once they realize they got to hold on it, and obviously the way we do things is a little bit different than most. A lot of people, it's actually hard for a lot of people to go through our program and eat. We actually want people to lose weight through eating, not through starving. So a lot of people realize, well, I'm not really that hungry. It's hard for me to get my food in. And then they realize, like, I don't need this vice or this thing to make me. A lot of people think the drugs is what, and certain drugs do help. I'm not going to lie, but they think it's the drug. And more so when it comes to appetite suppressants, like they feel they need this to be able to get the job done. But maybe they felt they needed this because maybe their plan was not right. But when the plan set right and they're not that hungry and they are starting to lose weight and they realize they could do it without it, we have so many people that just eventually stop using them, and they kind of, you see the flip switch, you know, and then they run with it, which is awesome.
And what's the typical length that people are on these medications?
I mean, a typical average client in the program, you know, you're 30 to 70-pound person could be like 10, 12, 15 weeks with us. We try not.
Semiglutide can be a little longer.
Yeah.
But the previous medications, like the appetite suppressants and things, usually about 3 months or so. Semiglutide, people tend to use it longer because it helps them achieve their goal, and then they can use it to support their goal. They can kind of dial back how much they take and still, kind of open up their ability to want to eat more food, but not as bad as if they had nothing
Keeps
there.
it in check.
And so, there's going to probably be a longer lifespan to those clients.
Yeah, okay.
But at some point, like, we still don't want them to think they can't do this without it. We don't want to give this false sense of
they can't. They have to be with us forever.
You're
like
gonna fall apart. We don't want to be part of that. We want people to know you did this on your own. You made those choices. Yes, these medications help you make those proper choices, but now you weigh less and you look better. You're exercising more. You're drinking more water. For a lot of times, we kind of go off track in life, and it takes something significant to put us back on the right track, right? And as much of it sounds, whatever, picking up the phone and calling us and admitting, hey, I need help, that for a lot of people is that first point of getting onto the track.
Yeah.
Starting to eat right, starting to see results, they're now down the track, and they're starting to feel the track's actually real. The medication makes staying on the track a lot easier, and then they realize that they don't need the shitty food. They don't need the alcohol every night. They don't need the pizza. That staying on track's easier. So they can eventually kind of like wean off of all the support pieces that we provide and hopefully stay, steady the course.
If you guys had to pick one thing for like, what's the person's hardest, like biggest barriers for people losing weight, what would it be?
I would have to say, well, there's number one would be alcohol. Alcohol is tough for a lot of people socially, more so here in Southwest Florida, but everyone likes to
Australia.
Yeah.
I'd say alcohol and lack of exercise, just lack of movement.
Well, and then lack of actual proper eating habits. That's just, I'll tell you, that's the number one thing we fix day one when they come in is try to restructure their eating habits. I mean, I can't tell you, I have never had anybody come in with okay eating habits, but usually those aren't the clients that are coming in that are overweight. Most of them all have a screwed up eating habit or structure to how they eat. So,
and it's sad too, like the quality of the food that we have available to us now, comparably to what it was 20 years ago, we're just not prepared and designed to eat the garbage that we're being fed.
Yeah.
All the seed oils that's in all the food that we're given, all the processed foods, it's not real food anymore. It's all hormonally, filled chicken, and the beef has got all sorts of garbage in it. And I don't care what diet you subscribe to, vegan, pescatarian, carnivore.
Oh, you knocked it again.
Damn this microphone. Carnivore. Every one of these diets has their own problem that goes inside with it, And so it's just, people need to figure out, we all need to figure out which program we're going to do and what we can do to combat it. And again, it goes back to like not drinking when you can afford to not. I mean, you should still have a social life, but you can't drink every single night. You got to figure out when to cut out the desserts and the things that you shouldn't be having, and try to exercise more than you used to, and keep yourself moving in the right direction. It's a big recipe, and there's many ingredients that go into it.
Yeah. And so, what is it? I heard about alcohol recently. They said like, I think it was Huberman was talking about it, and it's something like it's real detrimental not only to our body but our brain. Like, fuck, I'm botching this now.
Yeah, I could imagine.
It was something, yeah. So with people that struggle for like, they like to socialize, alcohol is the way in which they do socialize. Do you guys have any like techniques to help them get past that?
I mean, as far
more
as
psychologist than
that's definitely. But I'll tell you from like a weight loss standpoint, a lot of people think that alcohol, because of the calories, and one drink, whether it's a beer, a glass of wine, shot of vodka, like typically takes the liver 6 to 8 hours to process, right? Mm-hmm. And when you're trying to lose weight, and I'll talk about like the other thing that happens when people drink, but when you're trying to lose weight, you need your liver firing and function at its best. Not to mention, like when you drink, you get dehydrated, and then it causes people feel off, they hold water weight, they feel worse. worse. They eat bad the next day, or when they're drinking, their inhibitions go down. So they typically tend to start eating things they wouldn't, or like, screw the diet, could wait till tomorrow.
Yeah.
But the main thing is keeping the liver firing and functioning the way it should when they're trying to lose weight. I'll tell you, I used to work with athletes for years, and, predominantly like female athletes, and they would be training. They would have a trainer. Their nutrition was amazing, but it was like they had that glass of wine a night, or the guys would have the beer a night, and they're like, I can't get rid of this last 5, 10, 15 pounds. And I'd argue with them and argue to try to get them to drop the alcohol just that little bit. And they're like, no, it's not it. And then they would finally say, okay, I'll do it. And it was like the minute they dropped it, it was like, came off, no problem, felt better, fine. And then they got away from it. They're like, I don't really need it. I don't feel good when I do it. So it does hold a lot of people up on a weight loss. So to weight manage, obviously you're staying with your calories. You could work it in moderation, but everything in moderation.
The detriment to alcohol goes beyond that. Like, you eat poorly after because you make bad choices. If you're hungover the next morning, you're not going to get up and exercise at the capacity you would if you didn't. You're probably dehydrated. I mean, listen, I like to drink just like everybody else here and there, but I recognize the detriment it does to me, especially as I'm getting older.
Yeah.
When I was younger, it was no problem. And I'm not just simply saying,
Hold on, we're gonna fix this.
this thing is, I barely touch it.
It's very temperamental.
Yeah, it doesn't like me.
Maybe you just got a static touch. You
All right.
got that. You got that electronic touch.
Yeah, maybe. But, it's not just
Ignore me.
the alcohol affecting your being hungover. It's literally the actions that happen for the 24 hours after. And you're just not firing on all cylinders, And so if you take one day out of the week where all of a sudden you slow down all your processes, it's going to add up pretty quickly.
Yeah. Okay. And so, you mentioned that it takes 6 to 8 hours to process the
per
liver.
drink, tipper. Yeah.
Does that affect then the processing of any other foods that come through as well?
I mean, no, your body's still going to work and process. It's just the function of the liver. Think about it. I could have you take a drink tonight, pull your blood work tomorrow, and you're going to have some elevation in your liver enzymes, which shows liver stress, right? Mm-hmm. So you definitely, it almost becomes preferential treatment by your body to be able to get rid of that and remove it out of the system. So, once again, on a weight loss regimen, it definitely will put a road bump in the road. So
Yeah. Okay. So don't drink.
yeah, I mean, listen, you'll lose weight. It's just not going to be to the level that you would want to
Anytime
see.
you put something in your system that your body has to break down to get rid of, it's going to prioritize it over the other stuff. And that's another thing it was a big eye opener for me. If you're losing weight, where does it go? It doesn't just disappear randomly, right? You have to get rid of it. You have to pee it out, or get rid of it one way or another. You actually, a lot of it, you breathe it out through CO2. You get rid of it through going to the bathroom processes.
Wait, so you breathe out calories?
Yeah, actually, your body breaks it through CO2.
Interesting.
Yeah, a lot of the fat metabolism.
So if you just breathe, that actually makes sense, because I know
deep breathing exercises.
People have done deep breathing exercise or learned how to sing, and then they're like, I lost weight.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's more calories being burned, I'm sure, just through the process of singing too.
Yeah, and I guess increased oxygen allows for the what is it? Those things that break down. It's like fuck it. I'm forgetting all the shit that I learned as a personal trainer, as you can tell.
Yeah, there's medications, asthma medications that can increase, people's ability to burn fat, and they use that in different performance enhancing. Yeah,
I'm just cheating here.
He's gonna be like over here with that
Buterol. A drug called Buterol, which a lot of people know of. If you're into the bodybuilding world, and it's an asthma medication.
Interesting.
So
asthmatics have a cheat code.
Yeah, I mean, just
To what degree?
I guess with the
bit,
drugs they're using, I don't know. Maybe they're limited on their cardiovascular capacity, but
Yeah, maybe. So, so for anyone who what do you find is the breaking point for people to actually do reach out to you? Is there a consistent
it could be anything. Sometimes we used to think, when I first started this business, and the very first time we opened this clinic, I thought we would get the morbidly obese people. Mm-hmm. I thought it was going to be 300-pound people, get big seats for the waiting room, and get ready for the morbidly obese to come in. It's not. It's somebody who just doesn't look and feel their best. And sometimes it's a photo that they look at themselves and, God damn, I look terrible in that photo. Sometimes it's putting on a pair of pants that are a little bit tighter than what you want them to be. Sometimes it's having tried a diet or exercise plan on your own and just being frustrated that you hit a sticking point. seeing a friend who may look better than you. A lot of times that also can get people moving along.
Yeah, Instagram.
Yeah, seeing a photo.
Comparing a 40-year-old woman comparing herself to a 20-year-old.
After women give birth and done doing breastfeeding, they want to kind of get their old bodies back relatively quickly. So
the ones struggling perimenopause, menopause with the weight gain,
hormones
being off.
So what do you guys do for people that are going through like postnatal, like
they can't do anything until their breastfeeding's over. That's number one.
Yeah.
But once breastfeeding's over, just normal.
Interesting.
Just come to us as a normal client.
And it's like you focus on regulating their hormones as well, or is it just purely through the diet and suppressant of?
Yeah, so in Nuviva, we don't really get much into hormone management. His practice originally when he started.
We don't deal with like female-based hormones from a weight loss standpoint in the Nuviva practice. Most of the time, especially most women, their hormones are getting back on track, naturally. So we're just helping them drop that, additional baby weight.
But we do have a lot of like, perimenopause, menopause females that come in. So each of our clinics in certain markets, we usually refer out to certain specialists that specialize in female hormones. The other side of our business mostly focuses, we do have some female clients, but it's more male optimization, whether we're fixing their testosterone level.
Men in the male hormone
so we take on those guys, but
do you guys get more guys or girls going in to Nuviva?
No, I would say it's probably like 70-30.
It used to be 70-30 female to male. I think it's probably 60-40 now.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
guys are coming back.
Yeah. Well, just like how many men now are comfortable doing Botox and being a little bit more conscious of their
Botox
physiques.
is a little bit strange. Yeah. I'll be honest with that. I'm not judging if you guys have. I'm not even going to ask.
You're like, I'm so excited right now. You see how moving over it.
Yeah, give me a smile. Go.
But if you look at,
isn't that weird though? Guys doing Botox.
It depends.
I do Botox.
I was looking at your flat.
That's where it's pretty flat right now. Mine looks like a Sharpay.
Mine looks like it until I raise it. Like this thing's a beacon for sunlight. But
no, but I'll tell you, a lot of guys.
Get older, you got to protect your skin.
I think for
massage.
He's like putting all the skin creams on. No, a lot more guys I think have become more open. We've had obviously in the Southwest Florida market, we've helped a lot of like sheriff, police, fire. Like we've had a lot of guys come through that did really well, and I think it kind of like opened it up to a lot more guys. Like, all right, cool, I could do this too. Like because most guys do think it's like a weight loss clinic, so it's only for women. Like
weight loss does have that like female tone to it.
Well,
no, for sure.
Whereas like gym has men.
Yeah.
Well, and now you take your normal guy.
A lot of times the women, they'll bring their husbands just because like they're scared to make that first call. But then that guy kind of opens the door to all his buddies, I think that's the differential. It's not that they don't want to lose weight. It's I think naturally most men are scared or not wanting to ask for help in the process. We think we can do it. And unfortunately, men tend to lose weight quicker when it comes to the male-female counterparts.
Is that because of the muscle density?
Yeah, the metabolic rate's a lot better. Hormones, obviously, we have testosterone versus estrogen for women, so like they tend to hold fat a little bit more.
It's always fun when you weigh a husband and wife in together, and the husband drops 6 pounds, and the wife drops 1,
and he's like, he cheated all week.
But I've always said though, like I thought it was more because the guys, again, it's that thing of comparing yourself to a Biggest Loser who has 150 pounds.
Well,
to
even
lose.
if they were similar weight, sometimes you would get husband and wives that were similar weight, but the wife.
Yeah, but females are still at a disadvantage when it comes to weight loss, for sure.
I mean,
just hormonally, that they're already at a disadvantage.
Yeah, is that also though because of I guess we have this. Like the ideal female body is a lot harder to attain for a woman versus the ideal men's body because women are meant to hold on more weight.
Yeah,
and
it depends on what you consider ideal
anymore. I think
that is true. Actually, guys like thick.
Yeah,
nowadays, I live in Miami, so I know it is. Yeah, I live in Miami. Believe me, I see it. It's changed since I was younger. The Baywatch body isn't the ideal anymore.
That's still my ideal.
Yeah, me too. And now they just suck the fat out of one area and shoot it in another.
What is that?
That's
where
crazy.
like, you can just relocate fat?
Brazilian butt lifts.
That is, what is it called?
Brazilian butt lift.
Brazilian
BBL.
butt lift. Yeah, I think Lana Rose got that. It was like the most expensive.
Well, it was like Kim
butt lift.
Kardashian was like the first, that whole, and then everybody chased that.
It's like
image.
anything, it turns
And
south
now it's
really
like-
quick.
Well, if you've seen the Kardashians before they got surgery.
Well, now
I know why they did.
But now they're all Ozempic and they're all skinny. I don't know if you've seen the most recent pictures. Like we get people calling our office and they're like, I want to be on the Kim Kardashian diet. That was that diabetes drug she's on. And it's the semiglutide. So
it is wild how fast that family can change their bodies. Like Kim went from
is it that or Photoshop?
thick. Yeah, that is true. But if it is true, it's like she was like, all right, this body shape is trending. I'm gonna have a big butt, small waist.
Yeah.
Then she starts dating a white guy, and she's like, I'm gonna go skinny again.
Yeah. Well, you throw $1 billion in the equation, you can achieve a lot
Anything.
pretty quickly
It's
too.
fascinating though, the fact you can change your body that quick. Because I was just listening to something Human was talking about you can actually change your jawline in a matter of 2 to 3 weeks, 3 to 3 months.
They do fillers through your jawline.
Not even. This is just by chewing hard foods. So if you eat soft
I bought
foods,
one of those jazzercise things.
They're sick.
Oh
They're so
man,
good.
it was so hard to do.
Yeah, you slobber everywhere.
Your jaw like is just on fire after like 5 chews.
That's great. I'm actually going to do one. I'm going to test across the whole year of just doing.
Your progress.
It comes in
pics.
different like you buy like there's like the
Strengths or
different
whatever.
strengths.
Yeah,
there's,
I
like,
got the medium, I think, blue one.
Yeah, and then green and black, and the black one's like impossible to
Oh,
chew.
dude, the black is like chewing like rock.
Yeah.
But no, because I had to lie on my back because it's like you just salivate everywhere. Because obviously, like for ages.
There's a guy in my gym I always see chewing it in the gym while he's training.
That's weird.
I don't know, it's just too much. It's like
Yeah, no, it's like guys that do jujitsu workouts for their neck at the gym, like they're doing
the neck
I'm like,
twisting.
okay, guys, I know what you're doing, but no, you just look like a freak,
Yeah.
like trying to be Hannibal Lecter.
yeah.
But
The
so
iron neck.
what?
The iron neck.
Yeah, I wanna do that, but I don't do jiu-jitsu. You look like a guy that does jiu-jitsu.
No.
Really?
Maybe look, don't do it.
Okay.
I don't want to banged up ears.
Dude, if you get in a fight, you get the iron neck, and then the jaw, it'll be like a pit bull.
Take a punch.
All right, cool. I wanted to dive into T clinics as well. I've got one question. And it's just about one peptide in particular. BCP157.
BPC.
BPC?
Body Protective Complex.
That's what it stands for.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a healing peptide.
Can you take it often, or is it just if you need to get healed?
No, you take it as
I've been on the oral for almost 5 years.
Really?
I'm bone on
so
bone in
it
both my
it
knees.
comes in a pill or it comes in a localized injectable. So the pills for more
Chronic.
like gut benefits. So if you have like I have diverticulitis, so I take it. And previously, ever using this, I couldn't eat any nuts, ground beef, sesame seeds. I was always, arguing with the sushi chef guy, like take the sesame seeds off. Now I take it, I have no problems whatsoever. So it heals your gut exponentially
lining.
faster. What it is
Interesting.
it's actually
We actually have BPC in our body. We just don't produce a lot of
so
it. And
it
as we
comes
get
from
older,
the same
we get
inner
less.
lining of your cheeks and your stomach. The reason why those two types of tissue heal relatively, a whole lot faster than the rest of your body is because there's more of the BPC tissue like on the interior of your cheeks and inside your stomach. So the idea is that you take this pill and it like activates the healing processes faster in those same areas.
Interesting. So what's the difference between BPC157 peptide versus like HGH, which also heals your body?
Well, that's actually like synthetic growth hormone.
Okay.
That's completely different.
I mean, BPC is solely designed to stimulate the healing process. That's all it does. That's all it will do. You shoot it into your shoulder. It'll heal your shoulder. That's it. Growth hormone or a peptide that stimulates human growth hormone, a byproduct of elevated growth hormone is accelerated healing processes. But it has a lot of other benefits. It can make your body fat reduce, your muscle mass, come in quicker. It can
Hair,
make your
skin,
hair
nails.
grow faster, your collagen, your face come in. It can actually restore vision. Some people, so actually we'll get like coloring back in like white follicle hairs. So human growth hormone is the hormone that is responsible for you growing when you're young, right? So when you're in your early teens, like a 12, 13-year-old will have extremely high growth hormone levels. So that's what makes them grow taller. And that's why like a 13-year-old, if you cut them on their arm, they'll heal really quickly. And if you look at like an 80-year-old person who cuts on their arm, they're never going to heal. Like they heal months later. The difference in that growth hormone is a huge player in that speed process. Mm-hmm. So kind of going back to the original question about BPC157, if you were to injure yourself, like I told you guys earlier in the interview, I have an injured lat muscle. So I'm injecting that peptide directly into my muscle to help stimulate the growth of the muscle tissue to heal quicker.
Initiate repair response.
They say it can make it heal 600% faster. It has they call it the Wolverine peptide. Just like the Marvel
Really?
comic guy.
So I've actually used it quite a bit over the years.
We use a ton
I've had
of
a
it.
torn
Clients
back.
who have random from shoulders to knees to elbows.
Well, I'll give you a cool story on it. I had my knees done about a year and a half ago. It was my 6th and 7th. I'm bone on bone now. It should have been like 12 to 14 weeks recovery. I was triathlon training at 3 weeks.
Really?
But I use so I stay on the oral year round. Basically, it heals gut lining, but helps pull down systemic inflammation. But usually something like immediately post-injury or post-surgery, I would say it's kind of like one of them things, the faster you could get it in after the injury happens, it would drastically shorten the rehab time. You know, I would say like if you spend, you invest money when you're young, that money's exponential later, kind of on the reverse. The faster you get it in and initiate repair response to the localized area, you can shorten how long it's going to take. So like a pec tear, I had a pec tear a couple years ago. Probably should have took a year. 6 months I was back. I had a TFL
But you're
quad
also
tear.
using peptides for growth hormone.
Yeah,
and you
I
also
do take
utilize
a growth hormone peptide, not actual synthetic growth hormone. So, and the problem you run into like synthetic growth hormone, which you were asking about,
HGH.
one, expensive. Two, a lot of times, you're kind of just replacing what your body typically would do. Whereas like we use like stimulating growth hormone peptides like hyperelin or CJC, which tell your pituitary to put out more growth hormone. So you're able to kind of wake up your own production. So you get the same benefits, but you don't really have the negative of a decreased growth hormone when you're done.
Yeah, because you get off the HGH, so you can't produce it.
Right.
So you age faster.
Yep.
Ugh, doing that.
So like there's a whole class of these products called peptides, peptides is a generic terminology like the
It seems like they're popping off now. Like all of a sudden,
yeah, there's peptides for
everyone's
skin,
talking
for hair, because really by definition a peptide is just an amino acid strain that has under 40 molecules or shorter. So there's a lot of different things that kind of fall into the terminology of peptide. BPC is one peptide, CJC1295 is a peptide, ipamorelin is a peptide, ibuprofen is a peptide. So there's a lot of different peptides. Each one has kind of like a program. So think about it as a program. If you think about a program for a car, a program for a computer, when you put that program into the computer, it's designed to tell it to do something. That same idea, that peptide putting into your body is telling your body to do something. So if you want a peptide to make your skin look better, there's a peptide for it. That GHKCU, which is like a copper peptide. It actually stimulates collagen production and healthy skin cells to reproduce faster. So if you want to have a nicer skin, you take that peptide.
So what about someone with psoriasis? Because I work clearly psoriasis. It shits me to tears.
So psoriasis is actually like an inflammatory and an autoimmune type of response, and they have a peptide called thymosin alpha-1 that helps with it, and actually helps like simmer down the inflammatory issues and the immune process that kind of attacks
T
it.
helper cells.
So oftentimes people call us and they don't think that we have a solution for the products or the problems that they're experiencing. And, through an interview process that we can ask them questions, we can identify typically a peptide that's in, the product line that we can offer that can help something like that. Like you may not think you go into a T clinic would be a place to go for psoriasis, but yet we have a product that can help that. And so a lot of times, we have people say, well, damn, my shoulder's been achy for 3 years. And it's like, oh, the BPC157 will help with that. I'm like, oh, well, I've been losing my hair. Well, we have a peptide that can help with like hair loss. So there's a lot of different advancements when it comes to these wellness initiatives that, we have access to now.
But a disclaimer, there's a lot of peptides out there. There's probably a good like 15, 16, 18 that we feel that truly work for certain situations, and I kind of like, for me, obviously do what's best for the client or make sure you're getting them results. I feel like there's in this industry, there's so many people that'll offer every peptide on their side.
Yeah, for sure. Or the wrong dosing, or they just
don't know how to apply it for the right way.
They've read somewhere along the line that a rat being given of this particular amount of dose had some kind of a benefit. Therefore, they sell it to humans thinking the same is going to happen. Yeah, they have ones for
take like
Alzheimer's prevention. And you got to be careful too, because sometimes people believe in these things and they don't want to address maybe a true medical solution, and they think that
or the true underlying cause
I can use this as opposed to like another solution that actually will help. So we got to dance pretty delicately on like setting expectations. Yeah. Like for example, if you came to us with a really substantial torn shoulder, I'm not going to make you believe BPC157 is the solution to not seeing an orthopedic surgeon. Yeah. When I tore my lat, I went and saw an orthopedic surgeon and I said, what do you think the reality of this healing? And he said, the reality of me doing a surgery on this is probably just as risky as, you not doing it. You don't need this because it's not like a substantial tear, but I can survive without it. So I'm risk worth reward. I just said, I'm not doing the surgery. I don't want to go under. I don't want to deal with the repercussion of the surgery. So rather than just healing naturally, I'm like, I'll do the BPC. But for some people, clinics out there, they make people think taking this product is going to create your solution. And that's sometimes a really dangerous expectation to set on something that's just not going to ultimately happen, because you're going to disappoint the client and maybe close the window of the time that they should have had healing it properly, or
if they needed surgery, get surgery and then apply it after surgery so you can shorten the rehab on that. You know?
There's a time and place for when they're useful.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely a problem with a lot of things now where it's like, this is the one thing that'll work. Like the miracle pill. Everyone wants a miracle pill for weight loss. It's like, there's a great meme out there.
Grail.
Yeah,
well,
it's the holy
supplements
grail.
are notorious for that, right? I mean, supplements promise the world and typically underdeliver.
Well, it's in the name. It's supplementary.
Well,
Like,
and I'll tell you, I think I said something to you about this. Like, too many people want to step over 3 dimes to get the quarter, and like they could get much further by just focusing on certain things, like like their diet, their nutrition, their sleep, or their exercise.
Which is the big 3. Like, there's a great meme out there, and it's like this overweight girl crying in the gutter, and it's like, I've tried everything except for diet and exercise.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It's
People want the one pill or the one shot and think they can buy the result.
Yeah.
There is still nothing as good I don't care what you're trying to do other than hard work.
Yeah.
You diet, you exercise, you sleep, you do your stretches, you still got to do your PT therapy. Like, all those things are still super important.
That's the only thing that'll be long term.
Yeah, this is supposed to be complementary.
Listen, if there was, we wouldn't be in business.
Yeah.
I mean, really.
Well, no one would sell that as well.
Right, yeah. I mean, or if we had
Or
it.
they would be like very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is fascinating how people just want the quick fix. I mean, with health, money, everything. Global warming. People just want to be like, we do this one thing and we fix it. It's like,
Stop drilling.
We fucked it up for the last couple hundred years. It's going to take probably a couple hundred years to fix it. You know?
Drive a Tesla, you'll fix it all.
Yeah. Let's not pay attention to the fact it requires, what is it, gas and petroleum to make it.
400 years to make up for the energy that it's saving.
Yeah. So BPC 157. If you were to take that, obviously it's going to be a higher dose when you're injured. If you're
more frequent use.
More frequent. Oh, it's more frequent, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there comes a point of saturation. So, like, just because you inject, 1 milligram into that injection site today, tomorrow, next week, there's only a certain amount of reality of how fast that injury could heal. So you'd be better off doing, 0.25 milligrams every day for a longer period of time versus a high concentration for a short period of time.
Gotcha. And so if you're not injured, if it's just like do you guys have like a regimen you suggest?
Yeah,
for
so
people
usually
having?
oral BPC, just kind of, even if everyone ever did it once a year, every 6 months, just for the gut benefits out of it, help leaky gut,
Also,
decrease gut
that
inflammation.
infrequent is once every 6 months. Did you say that? Did you say once?
Like I tell a lot of people that really don't have that many issues, even if they ran like a course of the oral BPC every 6 months to a year, because they don't have really any issues, just to get the gut benefit out of it. It's amazing what I've seen it do with people with like diverticulitis, ulcerative colitis. I mean, him alone, I've known him forever, Crohn's.
But I think you're asking about like a regimen just the average person could do.
Yeah, just like, how you have vitamin C every day.
So we have
is there something like that for
the growth
157?
hormone peptides tend to be the kind of everybody go to, because we're dealing with adults first and foremost as our clientele. We're not dealing with 18-year-old, they're still
under
adults,
18,
but
right.
Kids, right? If you're over the age of 30, you have a declining growth hormone level that's beginning to create age-related disease, for lack of a better word, which is going to be bone density, body fat accumulation, reduction in muscle mass, losing of hair, degeneration in skin quality, inability to sleep good. Like, all those things start to happen, right? So your cholesterol levels, your cortisol levels start to get worse. Improving human growth hormone is the one thing you can do to kind of reverse or stop that process to a degree
Slow
that's
that
recognizable. And rather than just taking exogenous growth hormone, which is what you said, the like real HGH, peptides have kind of a throttled ability to allow your body to maximize its production without going too far. So a peptide is essentially the CJC ipamorelin and combination ipamorelin. It's a way to stimulate your body to produce more HGH within a window that's still safe.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like for almost anybody looking to improve their overall look, feel, and wellness appeal, that's the product we recommend.
Yeah, I just want that Jared Leto effect.
Yeah.
Like I want to look like I haven't aged in 20 years.
Yeah, there you go. That's it.
I do everything else. And so is it like an ongoing thing where, or you said something about 6 month cycle?
No, no. As far as for like
That
just,
peptide you could do it
like I've been on for over
consistently.
5 years, but I use it. I have some advanced osteoarthritic issues, so like
You got a lot of big
sorry,
words
kid.
in this podcast.
Yeah. But I mean, for real, like
are
I
Googling
have
what
some
the hell
problems, and I noticed like when I stop taking it, it starts coming back. I actually do have my son on it. He's been having growing pains, and he was constantly limping, and I put him on within 3 days, went away. I took him off.
BPC?
I took him off after like a week, and he started limping again. So I kept him on for a month, and you know, he started limping right when he came off again. So I got him through that period where he was having some growing pains, and it helped him out.
And there's no side effects long
Not the
term?
BPC157, no. You can
That's
you
what's
can
cool about a
overdose
lot
on
of
it.
the
You could take a insane amount of it, and you're just going to process what you're going to process, and
You're
essentially
just trying to
filter out the
initiate a
difference.
response in the body to happen that might not be happening, or just improve the process to happen.
Gotcha.
But
Cool.
the other peptides, the one for the more anti-aging benefits, those you could take consistently because you're not creating this dependency that your body's going to shut down its natural production by using it. You're just kind of tweaking the system to want to maximize production as long as you are using it. So let's say, you use it for the next 2 years, and then for whatever reason, 2 years down the road, say, I'm going to stop taking it. You're not going to be in a detriment because you decided for the 2 years prior to use it. All of a sudden now you have this dependency issue. So you could use it for whatever objective you're looking for at that time, immune system improvements, losing body fat, getting back on track training, looking better, whatever it is that you want to use it for.
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I just want to look young.
There you go.
But usually most people typically do
That's it.
BPC
That's
if it's
the-
for
that's
like
the
a
trick.
gut issue or for like an injury. Usually they'll go 30 days, gauge the response. If it's good enough, a lot of times they'll stay on it a little bit longer. Like I said, I value when I come off of it, I definitely feel it. So I've opted to stay on it. It's been a game changer for me for sure.
There's a new cool one that we use. We use NAD Plus a lot. I don't know if you've heard of NAD Plus.
I've heard of NAD drips, I think.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
use
a lot
an
of
IV.
people do the drips.
NAD Plus is it's essentially the food that every cell in your body eats. The mitochondria of your cell consumes NAD to survive, right? So you have billions of cells in your body, in your skin, in your hair, in your brains, in your eyes. Every one of those cells is there to do an action. Imagine giving all those cells more food to do their job better. So taking supplemental NAD, whether it be IV, intramuscular, oral, depending on what method
A lot of
you
people
choose.
use the NMN products, but
That's essentially
it.
this like anti-aging kind of phenom that people are kind of chasing with NAD plus. So we give it to people in a subcutaneous injection. So
What's that mean?
into your belly, into your body fat. So subcutaneous is like under the skin into fat, and then intramuscular is actually into the muscle, obviously. So use like little tiny insulin syringe, real little, looks like an eyelash essentially, the length of the needle. Poke your belly fat, take a little shot. You do it every day. It's the fastest way to get these types of products into your system with the most effective and efficient manner.
and plus too, if you take too much, a lot of times those IV drips have to be done over like a
And
couple
you got to go
hour
somewhere
course.
to do it, and it's
You
very
don't
expensive.
feel
So
good. And it's good if you you're coming off of like a lot of times like drug rehab, or it's a good way to kind of help you bounce back. But we do more of like
detox,
daily dose, just keep powering the cells.
yeah, and I don't know about you guys. I don't have the time to go to an IV center for 2 hours and sit there while the stuff's dripping. So we just give it to people, take a quick shot on your own, and that's it.
Interesting. Okay. And so you mentioned something about so the 157 you can take orally. That helps with your gut.
Yeah.
You mentioned also you can intramuscular.
Yeah, usually we'll use a
Is that
smaller,
for an injury?
Yeah, for an
Yes.
injury. So a lot of times we'll do more of an injectable daily, right after injury or surgery.
Daily, every other day.
Usually in the soft tissue around the area, just to initiate response more locally to that area.
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
But it's a tiny little insulin syringe. So
Yeah.
if your knee's hurting, you just get in the soft tissue close to the knee, or like again in my case the lat. I'm just kind of doing it right under the injury area.
Yeah, I got to try it.
What do you have injured?
I got no injury. I
Just
want
to try. Even if you have like
it's just recovery,
if you have,
like
cranky shoulders, like if you notice like after you train your shoulders just kind of get overly inflamed or just have.
I have honestly, it's like I'm so obsessed with my body composition in terms of not just look, but it's like also its mobility and everything.
Yeah.
So if I've got an injury, it's like I'm straight to physio, straight to like, if they tell me to rehab, I'm one of the few who's like, all right, what's the exact regimen? This, boom. Right. So body wise, I'm fine. The only injury I do have was when I tore 3 ligaments, a tendon, and chipped bone off my right ankle. I did the exact same thing when I was 18. Healed fine because they put me in like an actual cast. So it was
protected
dead still. But then this whole trend of a boot came in. So they didn't put you in a cast, they put you in a boot. So 5-6 years later, I did the exact same thing on my right foot. First was skateboarding. Second was I jumped over a railing down a 1-story building. 24-year-old.
It's like parkour.
Yeah, literally it's parkour. But they put me in the boot. And I noticed with that, because I could take it out and just at least move it a little bit, I didn't stop it from moving entirely so it could just properly heal. And as a result now, the ligaments are just slightly weakened, that the muscle has to overtake just that little bit different in terms of like the synergy that my left leg has. As a result, if I use my calf an excessive amount, so running about the 1 mile mark, the ligament that goes down there across there, whatever it is, it rubs ever so slightly on my knee and it locks my knee up and it feels like my knee's about to explode.
So there's some inflammation issues that are caused there too then.
I think so. It's like basically so if you're looking straight on my leg, this side tightens up on my calf, which like ever so slightly makes it pull that way.
As it starts compensating.
And then it does that. Like I can stretch it out, it's fine. I get like a feeling of mild tendonitis, patellar tendonitis.
Have you done active release on it?
I've done, I think
like
so.
true ART, like with someone who specializes in it, active release technique.
I think my physio would have been doing that. She's very she's a sports therapist.
Yeah, I mean it's a special course.
BPC injections. If you wanted to try that area just to see if it made improvement, it can. If it doesn't help, it's not going to hurt. I mean, short of having to take the shots, right? Because it has an anti-inflammatory property to it. If there's something in there that needs to be healed, it will heal it faster. Like I just found out I had a bunch of
10 years ago now.
No, but it can be an old injury.
Yeah.
I just found out I had like micro tears in my shoulders because I got an ultrasound when I got injured. I'm like, oh, this is torn here and torn here. I had no idea. Just because you start living with it, and you train around it, or you just kind of, figure the way you feel is normal. Yeah. So
it's like a dance in a way. Like, I mean, I can box and whatever, it's fine. It's like, it's when it gets cold and when I've been running or hiking or something for a very long time. It just is so annoying because it locks up and like I got a very high pain threshold and this is like, it's so painful that my knee just locks because I can physically move it, but it's so painful that my brain goes, no, don't fucking do it.
If you like to run, I mean, now you don't want to run because the pain inhibits that.
Yeah. And like, it's funny because it's like the 1 mile mark. And I used to love just running probably 2 miles. Like I'm not a big runner, 2 miles, but I'm like sprinting.
But that's like it
was enjoyable. Yeah, 1 mile, I'm like, no chance.
It's like I used to like 1.25, but I have to stop at 1.
No, but it's so frustrating. Like, people want to do some sort of challenge and it's, they're like, Blake, he's fit. And I'm like, that's the one thing I can't do. And I'm such a big advocate of like, you're usually full of shit when you say you can't do something. But like, no, I physically can't. Like, I'll be just limping through pain. And
it's not worth it.
It sucks. But I can try that. It will jab me.
Well,
set
I would do more the oral just so he gets the total.
Yeah, you take because the oral gives like a little bit of a systemic relief. It kind of releases like every area of your body that has a little systemic need for the healing aspect. So if your shoulders, or in your case, the knee, because your body's still sending a signal to your brain that says this currently hurts.
Yeah.
So some action in your body is sending something down there. So the idea of feeling pain means your brain recognizes that area needs attention. The question is how much attention is being brought to it for how long. And can we maximize that to some degree or not? And that's essentially what BPC is doing. Is it's bringing more attention to the area that needs attention.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay, cool. TRT is the next one. That one, I mean, everyone usually thinks testosterone. You know, big dudes, angry guys, small penises, and but I've noticed there's been a big trend towards now TRT, like testosterone replacement therapy, for guys as they, you know, get into their later years of life. Two-part question. One, why should someone take it? And two, why shouldn't someone take it?
Well, let's start with one element of just to clarify. There's testosterone replacement therapy and there's testosterone boosting therapy, which is one means, again, going back to the peptide kind of concept, which is, can we stimulate your body to produce more of its own testosterone? Or are you at a point where we need to completely go around it and introduce an exogenous format? So testosterone replacement means you're taking a needle or you're putting a pellet or putting on a gel that is testosterone, and you're essentially putting it right into the bloodstream and you're going around the testicles from needing to produce it. The testosterone boosting means we can boost it. So, you know, boosting is beneficial to more of the younger population of somebody who has a lower level, lower than ideal, and are still interested in some of the things that having testosterone replacement could create caution. If you want to have children in your future, you tend to not want to go on testosterone replacement because you can actually lower your fertility rate. So, you know, you asked the question of who should and shouldn't. If you have a 28-year-old guy who has recently been married and wants to have children and he has a lower testosterone level, putting him on testosterone may not be the best choice because you may create this inability to have children, and that's not worth it. So that same one guy, you could boost his levels up through the use of different medications that are now available to start producing testosterone more so the way that it was supposed to be at that level or above without sacrifice fertility. So that's...
And so what are the benefits of guys taking testosterone?
So, I mean, well, obviously testosterone or even trying to boost testosterone, you take someone from a lower deficient level and get them back to a decent testosterone profile. They're going to be able to keep more muscle tissue. Their energy levels are a lot better. Their sex drive is going to be back to what it used to be when you were 18, 19, 20. I mean, most guys typically don't decline, you know, and I've seen a lot more guys over the years, younger guys declining or having lower levels, but most guys don't typically start declining. I mean, we're kind of on this slow decline from 20, and then once we get in the 30s or 40s, is kind of, depending on the person, nose dives a little bit quicker. So, you know, having an optimal testosterone level, whether you're helping and assisting to get it back, which some guys were able to do that with, and then you have some guys that are just low enough, maybe sub 500, there's no fixing it. Either way, getting the testosterone back up to normal is going to hopefully get them feeling like they did when they were 18, 19, 20. And like all the things I listed, muscle mass, mental clarity, sex drive, just more have that drive that you had when you were younger.
You know, our company is, our slogan is making men great again, because men truly now are not as great as we.
MAGA.
Yeah. We're not MAGA.
We're not
MAGA without the red hats.
Right. But because we're not the men we used to be. You know, guys that were your grandfather's age had testosterone levels that far exceeded what we do now. And it's because of environmental issues, food,
stress,
estrogens that are in our food.
Estrogens in your food?
Oh man, the food that we eat has so many different hormones in it that just completely sabotage your natural hormone levels.
Or cause us to have higher estrogen
That's why
levels,
obesity is a problem. Women have all these. Look how many women go through their menstrual cycles
So
really
men
early.
are becoming gender neutral. It's a legit
we will
thing.
maybe not get into that. And listen, there's a big initiative to push that too that we're trying to steer away from. So, you know, truly, a 30-year-old man's level of testosterone on a range that's by Quest or LabCorp goes from like the mid 200s to the low 900 range, which is a huge, you know, discrepancy into itself. But 25 years ago, that level was 50 to 1200 or 50 to 1400. Or 500 to 1400. So like literally on paper, people back then had a higher natural testosterone level than they do today. And that just has nothing to do with the fact that that's what's more healthy to have. It's just because that's genetically how the average man is kind of becoming less of a man than we used to be. Why? Because of environmental issues, because of sedentary lifestyles, because of the food we eat, because of the drugs we take, all that stuff. I mean, who knows what vaping is doing to people now instead of smoking cigarettes? You know what I mean? Like,
I've heard vaping has the same effect as crack cocaine or
I've read that
amphetamines.
article too about how it has that
was talking about it.
Yeah, that same stimulating effect.
Well,
as
you got to
crack.
remember too, nicotine's like a super highly addictive
I
chemical.
mean, our grandparents used to smoke,
So,
like Lucky Strikes, and now like guys are running around smoking a
pink
peach
vapes.
flavored, vape stick. Just it's like ridiculous. But
I think it's more so the nicotines. I mean, that's a super highly addictive chemical.
Because that's a nootropic though, isn't it? I think
nicotine,
yeah.
yeah, it stimulates like brain functionality.
Yeah. It gives
But
me
going-
headaches. I don't know how people do it.
To what?
It gives me head spins. Can't do it.
Yeah, I can't do nicotine. Those patches and those little things that people use. Those
Yeah,
little,
my mate tried to quit once and he was smoking a cigarette while I had 7 packs on. I'm just like, I don't think they're working, dude.
Yeah,
He's
give
like
it up,
chain
man.
smoking in the back.
So to keep the testosterone going as well, just from a natural point, at least to slow down the decline, I'm guessing exercise,
Yep, sleep,
lifting weights, I'm
huge.
guessing.
Yeah, exercise, weight
I mean, but you don't
training.
have to be a gym guy to appreciate using testosterone. You know, like,
Yeah.
again, we said it early in the conversation, why is it women have a more difficult time losing body fat than men? It's because of the hormones. We're testosterone dominant and estrogen recessive. Women are estrogen dominant and testosterone recessive. When we have estrogen too in our bodies, just like women have testosterone in theirs, if you up a female's testosterone level, then they naturally burn more fat quicker. And if you lower our testosterone levels and therefore
Increase
raise our estrogen ratio, you're going to put on fat faster.
Interesting. Do women ever take testosterone for that reason?
Yeah.
Of course.
Hormone therapy all day.
Really?
It's just obviously in a
Most
different-
women use topical testosterone, like a lotion they put on their skin. There are some that do injectable.
Do they grow hair when they do that though?
Yeah, it's
If
called
they take too
viralization.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can.
So be careful of that.
Yeah.
talk like
Unless
this.
they want that.
Unless they want that. Just don't put it on your back.
Yeah. It depends on what their initiative is. But no, I mean, so like it also has a lot to do with like brain functionality. There's studies showing that it leads to Alzheimer's, having a lower testosterone level.
Honestly, you're at higher risk, like prostate
Visceral
wise.
fat, prostate cancer,
Cardiovascular
prostate
disease.
problems. All those things relate to having lower testosterone levels.
I mean, it's catch-22. Too low or too high,
Right.
You're going to
Yeah.
have problems, and that's where
There are risks. I
Going
mean-
to a place that's going to definitely balance the levels and make sure you're optimized and manage the byproduct for the medication that you're taking. There are most of the clinics, and obviously TRT, because you were just asking solely, TRT is kind of like the big craze now, and it's all over the place. A lot of guys when they come in, most ranges, like he said, Quest or LabCorp will go say 250 to 900 or 1,000. A lot of guys could go to their doc and they could be 251, and they're like, doc's like, hey, you're okay. But usually when guys start getting sub 500, they're clinically having some symptoms. I just not motivated. I'm putting on fat. My sex drive's not there. So that's kind of where we kind of look at the individual. Obviously, look at them specifically. Like you, younger. If you say, hey, I'm younger and I want to have kids, and there's a chance we could wake up your production and buy you some time. A lot of times we opt to go the TBT route and be able to try to get your natural testosterone level up. Sometimes
And
we'll
TBT is the boosting version.
Yeah, testosterone boosting. We use a medication, usually enclomiphene, and with a couple other things depending on the person's lab work.
And that one doesn't affect your.
No, you're telling.
It
It
actually
tells the
stimulates
pituitary,
fertility.
tells the
It actually
boys to put out testosterone.
Increases your
so we
testicles.
could wake up.
So your testicles won't shrink.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
She's got big melon hair,
exactly.
legs.
Grapefruit.
I'm 44, almost 44. I've been doing testosterone therapy since I was 26. But when I was 26, these options weren't available. So I prior to that, got a lot of stuff I did off the streets and screwed myself up and became dependent on testosterone. But in hindsight, I don't think I would have chose a different path. I mean, I've felt really good through my entire adult life. I feel like I look a lot better than the peers that I know that are my age, if not a lot younger. And I plan on obviously keeping up with it, right? So, but you got to be able to be smart with it. If you go to a place that doesn't know what they're doing, you run risks that all the scary stuff about testosterone can create. If you
Prostate
don't go to a
cancer.
clinic and you're doing this on your own and you don't check your blood work and you use stuff that's questionable, whether it's sterile or not, but the dosing is varied, you can run into risks of having too much testosterone, which can lead to an assortment of different medical problems. So we're not sitting here saying testosterone is this risk-free endeavor. And if it done right, like any other medication, the reward in my eyes, and obviously everybody in our business, far exceeds the risk. But being mindful of the risk is how you stay away from it, and how you mitigate any potential risks is doing blood tests and seeing a physician and talking to people who know what they're doing. Then you can have a great experience with it.
And so they've done long-term tests with TRT and TBT?
Oh, yeah. Testosterone therapy has been going since the early, 50s?
I mean, it's refined on how it should be done, or obviously how to keep things a little more balanced to manage the byproduct, making sure you're not like letting too much dihydrotestosterone. I don't want to get into it, but like you're gonna be like, yeah, whatever. Just managing the byproducts, and that's where I feel like a lot of people they don't manage the client as a whole, and they're not patient specific. And you can't do the cater to the masses cookie cutter, because what works for you is not going to work for him. And that's where people run into problems. Or you get maybe clinics that are uneducated and everybody gets the same dose, and they're like, well, I don't feel the same because maybe things aren't managed right. And what do? Like I see it all the time. They give them more. Like, I'm not feeling the benefits of my test, and they'll up their dose, but meanwhile their estrogen's through the roof and they're not feeling the benefits of the test, and then you're causing like blood volume to get thicker. They're having prostate problems they're not addressing. So you definitely need to be managed on testosterone therapy, and just make sure whoever you go to that they understand how to be specific to the person.
And like old school uneducated doctors will tell you you're crazy for doing this, and this is not natural and not normal. And yet, my partner is an interventional vascular cardiologist, and he prescribes this to men knowing that it improves, your health profile as you get older, and it reduces osteoporosis, and it can help you, reduce potential risk of cardiovascular disease and improve your cholesterol profile. Again, like anything done correctly, and think about your body naturally, you're a lot healthier when you're younger, when your hormone levels are playing with you. When they start to decline is when all of a sudden all the stuff starts to fall apart. All of a sudden you get overweight, you start having cardiovascular disease problems, your cholesterol goes through the roof, your blood pressure changes. Why is all these things happening as you're getting older? Most of the times because your hormone levels become shitty, and so we want to make them optimal.
Yeah, that makes sense. So I shouldn't take any just yet. I'll wait a couple of years.
Well,
I wasn't thinking about
I was thinking
like
levels
40.
first before you even consider it.
So
Like, get some blood work done.
Well, number
I'll
one,
go walking on the way.
have symptoms to warrant the want to do it. So if you don't have a reason, because a lot of times we'll ask people like, why do you want to do this? I don't know.
I want to be like Jack, like the guy in the gym.
Well, if you
I don't want that.
if you don't want
I like being limber.
If you don't want to feel or look better, then now is definitely not time. But if there's a part of your life that you want to improve, and it could be sex drive, it could be energy, it could be motivation, then doing a blood test is ultimately the first true sign to know where you stand. And having somebody who's educated look at that blood work and helping you decipher, it's not just one number. And that's a big issue that we run to people. My total T numbers of 500. That may not mean anything. What is your free level? What is your sex binding globulin hormone levels? Like these different levels that need to be played into an equation to determine like what you are versus just what's this one number.
Well, and to add to that, I get a lot of guys that come in that they're like, I don't know, I just want to check, but I think I have low T, and their levels are great. And they're like, well,
My wife's accused me of that.
Yeah. And they're like, can I still get tests? I'm like, don't fix it if it's not broke, because ultimately, like, you start taking it just like growth hormone or synthetic growth hormone. The testes start kicking down, and now say you only did it for a year or two, or like these guys that take a cycle in the gym, now they start creating a dependency or deficiency, and now they got to go on it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So you're gonna put yourself on that train early.
Yeah, you don't want to be on that train. So, okay, I guess it's definitely dependent on each individual.
And one thing to understand, like testosterone replacement therapy is a permanent fixture in your life. So when you make this choice to do it, you're stuck doing it. It's not, we don't cycle testosterone like the guy in the gym. That's not what an initiative of a clinic like ours is. If you have levels low enough to warrant using them or using it, you're going to go on this and be stuck on it, because there's going to be, to some degree, a dependency that's created, meaning your natural levels will drop even further. And then you're going to become used to this new normal high level. And once you get on that, you're going to stick to it. So you really got to be prepared that this is something you're comfortable with with
So it's a
commitment.
long-term.
Well, and I'll tell you, a
commitment
lot
to
of
it,
clinics
yes.
don't say that to people. I'll tell you, I can't
No, they give
tell you how
people
many people they come in and they got a good level and they put them on tests, and it's like that's kind of one of the first things we do before we put them on testosterone, let them know like this is not a short-term fix, and then you could come off, and there's things we could do to try to wake it back up, but a lot of times it's just not going to be fun if you decide to just discontinue therapy.
So TRT really is just like you're doing it forever.
Yeah, I'll be
like
on
a
till I
tattoo,
die
man.
if it's done right.
It's a tattoo.
Yeah.
It's a tattoo. I mean, there are ways to come off. I mean, if you ever don't get me wrong, we've all had clients that halfway through it have decided I want to stop or I want to have a kid now. We can do our best to help fix them, and we kind of put the disclaimer out there that this is permanent, but there is a chance we can fix it, and sometimes it works and sometimes it does not. But we give them the best opportunity, but we want everybody to walk in knowing the full extent of the risk.
Well, and I'll tell you too, if the guys are already low, no risk, no harm,
Right,
no
you're already
foul. It's
low.
already messed
You're already
up.
low.
Like,
Yeah.
you're just gonna
It's
go
like
back
the
to where you
analogy
were
of-
before. But
I
like
say-
you take a guy that say you got 800 and you go on for a couple years and come off, and now you're at 300, you're gonna be pretty pissed.
So
off.
that can happen that much, huh?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
so in the case, so can you mentioned about the guys they're on it, they want to have a kid, they change their mind in their 50s, let's say. Can you still get pregnant
Oh yeah.
on it?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's,
No, there's some
So
guys
for
that
any
go,
guys listening to this, don't go out there thinking
you're not chemically
safe. No,
castrated for sure.
It just reduces the probability to some extent. So if you're heartfelt on having a child and you go on testosterone, there is whether it be 1% difference or a 60% difference, we still have to acknowledge the fact that we're going to reduce the probability of fertility. Some people it's more severe, some people it's not. We all know a guy somewhere down the road who's been on something, who's got somebody pregnant or their wife pregnant, and for that time, hey, good for them. But there's also that same one guy who wished he could have got somebody pregnant and couldn't, and now his current wife or girlfriend's pissed off and like, why did you do that stuff? Now we can't have kids.
Or on the flip side, I've seen guys take pro hormones over the years, and it shuts them down. You see guys like take
the stuff that's
everything
pro
under the
hormones?
sun,
over
like,
the counter
like
stuff.
pro hormone supplements over the counter before they started banning
The Mark
a lot
McGuire
of, like,
stuff.
Yeah, the Barry Bonds, Mark McGuire, no, like androstenedione and some of those other pro hormones that were available through like supplement stores.
I
But
never heard of
I've
them.
seen
have you
younger
heard
guys.
have you heard of SARMs?
nah, that must be an American thing. That wasn't on in
SARMs
Australia.
were like all the rage a couple years ago, and they were sold over the counter. They've recently been banned because they're actually like SARM stands for selective androgen receptor module, and it's essentially a chemical that was designed to be like a steroid minus the effects on the androgen receptor site, so it didn't create like hair loss or prostate enlargement, but they would shut people's testicular function down. So these guys were buying this stuff at Vitamin Shop, these kids, 17, 18-year-old kids buying this stuff at Vitamin Shop, taking it for 2-3 years, coming off and having erectile dysfunction at 19 years old.
Oof.
20 years old, coming in doing blood work, and their testosterone levels are like 150. Like, bro, you're 19 years old. You should be like all day, every day.
1100.
You're like,
Yeah, wow.
saying like, I got a girlfriend, I can't even sex her. I'm like,
Wow.
so of course, regulations took that stuff off of the market, and that's the one time I've actually been a fan of regulations in these things, because I think, these people, especially the ones selling it, didn't know what the hell they were talking about either, and they would sell it to these kids like, oh yeah, man, come on this, and this is this PCT shit that they sell, and this is this anti-estrogen garbage that they sold, and they were given this whole cocktail of $300 worth of supplements, and then these kids are breaking out with acne, can't get their just
they
destroying
got
their
a cashew
bodies.
noodle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just destroying their bodies, and now they have to live with that. So now this 20-year-old kid now has to consider going on TRT
Shit. At 20.
at 20.
So don't do it, kids.
Don't
are
just
bad,
kids.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't do those drugs, kids. All right, so with T clinics, you guys offer basically it's TRT along those lines, peptides. Is there anything else that you guys
Sexual health stuff. So
Ooh.
all your
really?
all your Viagra, Cialises, and blends of different stuff. And there's some different unique stuff that we have that people probably haven't ever heard of. There's like a peptide product called PT141. It actually like enhances
Arousal
libido and
and
arousal. So you
erectile
take that
function.
with tadalafil, which is the Cialis blend. So then you actually have a heightened libido, and then you can actually, keep it up once it's up. So we have these different combos, cheaper than, of course, what's commercially available, legitimate, not the crap that you'll get from like India and stuff. We do a lot of wellness stuff like injectable vitamins, glutathione, B12 type shots, immune system supporting shots, the NAD+.
The B12 stuff, that's not in Australia. So the B12, I know that we're deficient in it because we usually eat the dirt. What are the shots here, and how much of it is given in a shot, and what's the benefits of that? Like with just B12
by
shots.
milligrams of B12, you mean?
Yeah, like
What depends on?
A lot of times you use, I don't know the milligram doses per milliliter. We use it a lot of times to like lower homocysteine. So lowering homocysteine is kind of like an inflammatory marker, reduction in energy. It also helps to like heighten energy levels. Guys got to be careful with B12 though, because if you're on testosterone, it also accelerates the red blood cell development. So
testosterone does?
Both do.
Both do.
Testosterone stimulates androgens. Androgens kind of accelerate red blood cell development. So that's kind of a caution of being on testosterone. You get more higher viscosity of your blood called your hemoglobin and hematocrit. So those guys have to go give blood in order to like thin out the blood periodically. And if you don't do that and the blood gets too thick, you run the risk of getting a stroke. So that's like one of the risks associated with using testosterone. If you ever look around the gym, you see a guy on steroids, always red.
Purple.
Always kind of like a reddish look.
That's the Pepper Hulk.
That's what it is.
Like your backdrop here.
That's why that happens. But B12 contributes to that same kind of mechanism because it also accelerates red blood cell development. A lot of times they'll prescribe it to anemics as a way to kind of help develop more red blood cells. So anyway, so a guy on testosterone plus a guy on B12, the combination of those two, you got a guy who's just pumping out red blood cells. So that sometimes is something we have to kind of like not cross over if they're more prone to those issues.
I'd say a lot of females actually typically feel better with B12 than most guys. A lot of guys
because a lot of women have menstrual cycles and they tend to have a little bit more anemia.
Volume.
They don't have as good iron-rich.
Or somebody on a diet helps convert the food into usable energy.
We use the B12 with the semiglutide also because it has a natural anti-nausea property to it. So semiglutide has a nausea side effect. It can make people actually feel sick and want to throw up. Taking B12 along with it can actually mitigate some of those side effects. So that package is usually like a good combination.
Interesting. Okay.
But going back to T clinics,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's good.
And that's why
I've decided to
we try to separate the two industries into like very unique categories.
But it's all interesting. It feels like it's all pretty. It can be intertwined quite. Like 157 also helps with weight loss because of body regulation, body.
And most guys who
healing.
are working out have an injury. They want to heal faster, so they get back in the gym. So the peptide helps with it. And there's another cool peptide called ibuprofen. It's a pill peptide versus it being injectable, and it's a growth hormone stimulating peptide. But one of the things it does is it stimulates ghrelin, which is like your hunger response hormone. So it makes you hungry all the time. So the opposite is semaglutide. So for someone who's a thinner build or a tough gainer, someone who wants to actually eat more and actually put on weight or get more strength because of it, they take that product and they're going to be eating significantly more calories.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised. We talk to a lot of older men who train and they're like, man, I got no appetite. Like I just can't eat as much as I know I'm supposed to. My trainer's telling me eat 5 meals a day. And I just can't do it. I'm never hungry. So this really helps kind of boost that desire to eat food.
Fuck, that peptide had sent me broke, dude.
No, I'm telling you, man. I took it. And like you're eating breakfast thinking about lunch.
Oh, really? That bad, huh?
You're like, man, I can't wait to. I'm like looking at like Uber Eats, wondering what to order next as something's being delivered.
Well, because ever since I've started, even just now cutting out, like, fuck, I don't know if it's inflation or what, but because of all the shit you guys in America put in the food, like you have to have, like, organic's the only option. Australia, we don't even think about that.
Yeah, it's all crap here.
It's wild. Like, I think my food budget alone during a day is like $30 to $40, which for a little guy, that adds up across a month.
It's crazy how expensive food is now.
Yeah,
Look at eggs. Eggs are like, what, 3 times the cost they were 2 years ago?
Yeah, well, even what is it, the steaks now? I have like a ribeye, but it's like $12-13 for a freaking organic. It's
come to Miami, still.
Fuck that, dude.
Yeah, unfortunately, like twice the price. It's crazy over there.
It is expensive over there.
Steaks
It's so wild.
I mean, you pay for what you get, but it's shocking how expensive some things are.
Which is that is.
But it makes
part
you
of the
stay
problem
home and
too.
eat at home a lot. I will tell you. Like I thought when I moved there, I was like, I'm gonna eat all these great restaurants. It's like $200 to go get pizza and like 2 beers. I'm serious. It's so expensive. So I just don't have the time.
Yeah.
I mean, a $400 dinner for you and your wife is like not. It's like
Appetizer.
That's just like a normal restaurant.
See, I don't know how people can live in Miami.
You can't. Like it's.
I visit there and I'm just like, I'm out. Like we went to a place and had one meal, and like for my wife and I, it was like $90, $100. And I was like, what the? And then they want a tip, and I'm like,
well, no, the tips always the tips included. Always,
they do it.
Yeah.
Sneaky bastards.
$25 a drink.
The tipping thing is a weird thing here. That's a little tangent, I know, but that's not a thing in Australia.
It's not. Yeah. Well, you know what's weird? Like where I live, it's factored into your bill always. So whether you give me shitty service or not, you're getting the tip.
Which is ridiculous.
It should be the incentive to be like a good waiter or waitress, right? So I mean, like I should make a decision. You did a good job, therefore I should tip you well. Don't just make me pay it, and then you just then you're just like a shitty waitress. So like, what's your incentive?
Because I've heard it's actually a little bit of like some restaurants. I've heard they don't actually pay minimum wage.
No, they don't. It's like
they pay like $2,
right?
And then
they
it's your job to make the tips back. So, and if you don't make your minimum hourly wages, you get in trouble. It's like. Yeah. It's like the best scam America ever did from corporate America, which is like, all right, we need to drive down prices. We'll make it culturally acceptable that the customer pays for everything.
Well, now you go to these places and you like order the sandwich at the counter, and they flip the screen around and they're like, it's going to ask you 2 questions.
I love that. I did that at Moe's. I was like,
I know what's going to ask me. It's asking me no. You made me a burrito. No.
Yeah, I'm so okay with doing no now. I'm so numb to it.
And they always like look away, like acting like they're nonchalantly like.
The problem is I eat the same place over and over again.
Yeah, it comes a cheap bastard doesn't tip.
Yeah, pretty much. I just lean into Aussies. I'm like, this is crazy. We don't do this back home. But no, that is a wild thing. Automatically in the bill.
Always.
Fuck them.
And then
do you guys get tips? You guys get tips.
And then when I leave and I go somewhere else, I feel like an asshole. I'm like, wait, was there no tip included in that? Yeah. When I come back here.
Yeah, that is wild. But then there's other things where it's like it is weird. Like you're helping someone's, like you're doing real service, but then it's like you don't tip.
Yeah.
You know, like what you guys do. It's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should tip us.
No.
I went to a massage place recently, and like I was like,
you never know.
Like, do I leave a tip at this place? Is that customary? I don't know.
Depends on what kind of
like,
massage.
They were very gentle. That was great. But no. Is there anything else you guys want to touch on? Because I feel like I've learned a fuckload right now. My brain is hurting, but I'm also doing 157. Right. That'll help. I don't know.
I would always say this: like 1 degree that both our businesses took a weird turn during COVID because of this whole attention being brought towards natural immune boosting. I think a lot of us prior to this kind of took advantage of the fact that we're just healthy people. And whether you subscribe to the idea of doing the vaccine or not, you know, people wanted to raise the bar of allowing their systems to kind of be defensive. You know, we have a good artillery of products that we offer that allow you to have the most maximized, you know, immune functionality. And I think that's something that I don't care if you want to lose weight, if you want to put muscle mass on, you want to heal from an injury, regardless of what you want to do, that's something that everybody should look into.
Yeah.
Because the foods we eat, you know, most people don't take good quality supplements. They buy some garbage from Costco that probably is not even close to what they think it is. Taking proper care of yourself could have avoided a lot of what we just went through. You know, people that were overweight or had really poor quality immune systems are the ones that were the statistics. If we improved those factors, we would have not gone through what we just went through to the degree we did. You know?
Yeah. It is wild watching that.
Take better care of yourself, you know, and allow our bodies to do naturally what it was supposed to do, which is defend against viruses and diseases, and be capable of actually putting up that fight. You know, but if you're in such poor health that your body can't fight back, then, you know, I hate to say it, but, you know, to a certain degree, you're kind of asking for whatever's going to come next.
That was the thing that really, like, it was fascinating to watch it unfold about this whole thing, people preaching health that were not healthy.
Right.
And then, you know, the classic thing is, I think you and I were chatting about the other day, where it's like, before the last 2 years, it was like, if you tell someone, hey, you're putting your health in danger, they go, fuck you, dude. It's my body.
None of your business.
Like, it's not your business. I will do what I want.
It's
now
smoke,
there's
drink.
this virus going around, which
is directly affecting those people who didn't give a shit, by and large, like 99, probably 95% of them. But I'm like, hey, I've done the work, so I'm not worried about shit
But now
like
I got
this.
to deal with the bullshit because of you.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't get to go, fuck you. It's my body, it's my choice. And then it was like, I felt like this was our optimal, this was our option. No, sorry, this is our
It was like the school
opportunity.
bell curve. We all had to deal with the worst person's.
But it was
you
our
know,
opportunity to talk about health for a change.
Yeah.
And instead we spoke about health as in like, you take one shot, that's the definition of health, is sticking something in your body. Yeah. It's not go to the gym, exercise,
Get sunlight.
Yeah, get some sunlight, eat healthy.
Gut health.
Gut health. None of that.
Promote a lot of the products that we offer.
No, there was actually one
for
that
the
was actually
reasons that we
cold.
were actually offering them.
Yeah.
There was a peptide that we had on the market called thymosin alpha 1. It was proven to substantially increase your immune system. They took it off the market during the COVID time. They literally stopped pharmacies from being legally allowed to produce it.
Is that because of the emergency release thing they were trying to push?
It's because they didn't want to create a solution. They wanted people to have the need to take the vaccine or to take whatever ivermectin or not
I think
take
it was because
ivermectin,
that
but take
emergency
remdesivir.
response thing. There's something where it's like you don't have to go through, if there's no other option that already exists to treat something, you have the companies are able to just push out a vaccine or push out something
probably.
that they don't have to do the proper protocols.
Right now they're coming out with all this data that shows ivermectin and all these other
Yeah.
things. We're fine.
all the conspiracy theories.
All the
they're-
stuff they said
they're
that
all-
you shouldn't do or doesn't work.
I had monoclonal antibodies when I got it. I kicked COVID in 12 hours. Like, obviously I'm healthy. I was also getting sunlight and I was still walking around in, the lanai.
Right.
But it was like I had 0 symptoms the next morning, plus monoclonals.
Yeah. No,
know?
I did.
I had
Crazy
COVID for an
fast.
afternoon. I had it like it was
So
last
you
Christmas.
did
It was
the
like last
monoclonal?
Christmas.
Yeah, like 2 months before they tightened it up and Florida couldn't get
When it
any.
was like anybody could get it. Yeah.
So it was when you could walk in and like,
You got it too, right?
No, within a day, night and day difference. And
Yeah.
I was pretty sick. No, I'm not gonna lie. I was like, fever was crazy high, cold chills. Next day went. Within the next day, I felt like
I had
nothing
4.
happened.
It was 4 hours.
Crazy.
For me. It was literally so.
Yeah.
I got home from West Virginia, had a fever that night. I was like, ugh, this feels a little bit like it could be. During the day, like I have the tendency of I get sick at night. So if I got the flu or something,
Yeah, I think you always do. When you're
nighttime,
laying
during the
down,
day
you feel
I'm
like shit.
fine.
Right.
Nighttime is shit again. So it was that night I had I was pretty uncomfortable. So I left and slept in a different room away from my daughter and my wife. Felt like I'm probably all right, but I'll get the test. Boom, positive. Okay. I then found out there was at the Bonita Springs library.
Yeah, that's where I went.
Casually just walk in. They're like, hey, how you going? I'm like, yep, got it. And they're like, no worries. Boom. They go, your wife can come and take it too if she wants. I'm like, she's negative. They're like, it could be
just
just a
as
small
prevention.
viral load. Like, they were handing it out like nothing. Fine for the rest of the day. And then that night, it was 3 hours of like intense fever. And literally, like, it was just, I went to sleep, woke back up 1 a.m. in that morning. And I was like,
Broke fever. Done.
literally nothing. I was still positive, but I was like zero.
But see, like that's just like
things.
your immune system doing what it's supposed to do. You weren't. It's not an artificial drug doing it. It was like those antibodies working in conjunction with your immune system fought it off the way
Yeah.
that it's supposed to work.
Yeah, but my in-laws and everyone got it 2 months later. Literally, it was
When
like
antibodies weren't available.
they were pissed.
Yeah.
They were so
Well, because that other bullshit pill drug came out that they wanted to push. That
that didn't work.
Yeah.
yeah. Well, no, people got it and then they got it again.
Well, I kind of cheated too. Like right when I started coming down, I actually took we have immune shot that has like vitamin C, zinc, glutathione in it, and then I started taking the thymosin alpha 1 before it got pulled, and then the next day I went and did the monoclonal, and it was like, I've never been sick like that.
Yeah.
and it was like crazy how fast I
It
turned
was just so acute.
Yeah.
Like it just came so hard. Like I'll take that any day. Give me like 4 hours of insane discomfort and then gone. Not it's like
Yeah, one
when you
day.
got the flu that's like 5 days.
But
you
I mean,
just
like,
go
even
away.
if you
That's
wouldn't
it's
have,
the
like-
worst. Is just laying around feeling shit for a
but you're
week.
relatively healthy. If you would have done nothing, I guarantee you still would have probably blown through it pretty quick. You know?
It was definitely interesting also to watch the mentality also affected the result in a way. I was like fuck it, this is nothing.
There's definitely a big, if you think you're going to be feeling better, I think that's a big part of it.
Well, it's also, I was proactive, so it was the same thing. Went and got monoclonals, stayed in sunlight, moved slowly to promote blood flow, and also was like, I'm not worried about this. This thing's gone in no time. And I was like having this race of like, how quick can I be negative?
Yeah.
It was 5 days, which was bummed, like, but you know, symptomless. But then I looked at, you know, my wife, my mother-in-law, they had the mentality that they sort of wallow when they're sick, and then they'd stay indoors, stay in the dark, lingered for a week, 2 weeks. You know, like it wasn't real bad, but it was just this constant lingering of COVID.
For sure.
And it was very interesting. But again, they weren't being proactive because it was like, oh, I'm sick, I'm miserable. So I'm a big believer of this thing also helps you. With a lot of it.
But I think that's one of the big things that when all this was happening, our two businesses, we really got behind the idea of let's not be scared of it. Let's be proactive, and let's really embrace the idea that there are products that we can kind of like sell and market to these clients, you know, that can give people a more fighting chance. You know, vitamin D, for example, like we started doing vitamin D shots, there's vitamin C, zinc, glutathione injections, all that stuff in combination with sun, with positive thinking, with exercise, you know, you're doing everything you need to do.
Yeah, that's what's important.
Yeah, for sure.
Health first.
Yeah.
So for people trying to get a hold of you guys, where can they reach?
If you want to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, go to NuvivaWeightLoss.com. Now, NuvivaWeightLoss.com, those clinics are more local. So in the local areas that we service, so again, like Fort Myers, Naples, Port Charlotte, we have Tampa, 2 in Orlando, Melbourne, Boca Raton, and Coral Springs.
Throws me off.
Melbourne, Australia.
Yeah,
Still throws me off.
If you're not in one of those local markets, unfortunately, that particular option may not be good for you. But the T Clinics USA model, we have 6 offices throughout the state, but we can work with you a little more remotely throughout the state. So you don't have to be like super close. You can go to the office that's closest to you to sign up with it from a testosterone therapy standpoint. And then we ship the medication directly to your home, so you don't have to like come in every single week. So tclinicsusa.com or NuvivaWeightLoss.com, and that's Nuviva, Nuviva.
New Life.
It used to be New Life. Yeah, we used to be New Life Weight Loss.
No, that was actually the name of it.
Viva Español.
Yeah, and then we were told we were infringing on someone's patent.
New Life Church
or trademark.
New Life something, so we had to change the name.
Don't want to infringe on a church.
So we spent all this money to get our name back in Spanish.
Yeah. yeah. We like tried to figure out like this really cool name, and then
we were like so
hired
hard
this company, and then they came back like, we got a great name for you, Nuviva. And we're like, oh, we love it.
Well, our tagline we own is
Spanish
it's not just a diet, it's a new life. You know, so we still kind of kept it. But
Maybe you just open up a Spanish market.
Yeah.
Do it with Miami.
Yeah, that's true actually. All right, cool. Make sure guys subscribe and bye.